That evening, I drank some wine with the others. Back in my previous life, I was known as the king of drinks. 1,000 cups couldn't get me drunk. In this life, it seems my body is even stronger. The alcohol burns away the moment it hits my stomach, evaporating through my skin like sweat. Getting drunk might be impossible now. After dinner, I worked with Ho Xiaobai and the others to assemble the crossbows we'd been building. For in total, one for each of us. Powerful pulley crossbows, every single one. I told them everything. About Black Wind Stronghold, about the bandits, about my plan. 4 of us against nearly 100 of them. I asked if they were afraid. Not afraid, Zhao Dashi shouted, lifting a 100-gene stone lock over his head, though his arms were shaking. If you're not afraid, why are you trembling? Ho Xiaobai mocked him, then loaded his crossbow and sent a bolt straight into a coin-sized target across the room. His aim keeps getting sharper. That's excitement, not fear, Dashi protested, his eyes bulging with indignation. Lu Qinshu stayed quiet for a while, thinking. Then he asked me how I planned to fight this battle. I told him to share his ideas first. I've been watching these 3 grow, and each one's strengths are becoming clear. Qinshu is the thinker, sharp, strategic, good at reading situations. Xiaobai is precise and skilled, a natural marksman. Dashi is simple and honest, with raw strength and perfect obedience. Among the 3, Qinshu stands tallest. Qinshu laid out his plan. It was decent, but still theoretical, a few assumptions that wouldn't survive real combat. I corrected him and then explained my own strategy. All 3 of them stared at me in shock. Brother Chun, I've never heard of anything like this. Will it really work? Qinshu asked. I just smiled. We can test it tomorrow in the deep forest. Then little Chinny screamed with delight. The tiger cub opened its eyes. Come look, we all crowded around. The cub's amber eyes blinked open, looking around at everything, sniffing at each of us, its tiny paws kicking in the air. Adorable beyond words. I took it in my arms. The little thing was already nearly 4 gene after just 2 weeks. With a frame like that, it would easily grow to 300 or 400 gene. When our eyes met, the cub's body shuddered, and then it pressed its front paws together like a person bowing to me. Huh, smart little beast, Dashi laughed. Already knows who the boss is. Everyone wanted to hold it, but Qingwan rushed over and snatched it back. Come to mama, little Jeansy. These big men have heavy hands. They'll hurt you. The cub sniffed her, let out a happy squawk like a duck, and curled up in her arms. She stroked its belly, and it fell asleep purring, paws in the air. It had truly chosen her as its mother. It makes sense, I said. Warner has been caring for it all this time. What about me? I helped too. Little Chinny protested, hopping up and down. You can be its big sister, I laughed. Okay. Wait, Brother Chun, doesn't that mess up the family order? She said, and everyone burst out laughing. That girl is something else. Later, after everyone left, Qingwan fed the cub with dog milk and then mare's milk. She burped it, played with it on the Kong, giggling softly. Watching her, I felt warmth spread through my chest. I sat down beside her. You heard everything we said earlier, didn't you? Her eyes reddened. She nodded quietly. Don't worry. Everything is going according to plan. But they're murderous bandits, she whispered, fighting back tears. And there are only 4 of you. It's too dangerous. We'll have reinforcements from Xiang Stronghold. I reminded her gently. Bai Yuxiang is their leader. Then why not let them do the fighting? Why must you 4 lead the attack? Because I need to train soldiers. I need to turn Dashi and the others into real fighters, as fast as possible. She stared at me, startled. Train soldiers? Husband, what exactly are you trying to do? I looked out toward the vast, rolling peaks of Taibai Mountain. Something sharp flickered in my eyes. I want to build a future where I never bow to anyone again, where I never have to read someone else's face, where the world looks up in admiration, and I live free at the very top. But isn't that what an emperor does? Qingwan gasped, her clear eyes wide as moons. She clapped a hand over her mouth the instant the words left it. But the fear in her eyes, that she couldn't hide. So what if I become emperor? I said with a calm smile. Kings and generals aren't born noble. The founder of our dynasty started as a commoner too. Qingwan was breathing hard, her eyes darting to the door in panic. When she saw no one outside in the dark, she let out a long breath. Husband, please, only say these things to me. Never to anyone else. It could get you killed. Of course. I'm not stupid. I stroked the sleeping tiger cub. Besides, wanting something and doing it are different. For now, we moved slowly. Step by step, she stared at me for a long time, her thoughts drifting somewhere far away. Then she said quietly, "A woman doesn't question her man's path. Whatever you do, I'll follow. As long as I'm beside you. Life brings joy, death brings no fear." That's enough. Life brings joy, death brings no fear, I repeated, impressed. I pinched her soft cheek. You really are the loyal wife, aren't you? I married you. Living, I'm yours. Dead, I'm still yours. I laughed hard at that. Then she surprised me with another question, her voice barely a whisper. If you really do reach that peak someday, will you care for the refugees? All those poor, wandering people. Even she seemed startled by her own boldness. I went quiet for a moment. Then I said, if that day comes, I'll make sure there are no more refugees in this land. Not just peace, but a golden age. And our people will walk anywhere in the world with their heads held high. Her eyes lit up with fire. Then I'll follow you through wind and rain, through mountains of blades and seas of flame, without flinching. Well, first you need to fix your archery, I teased. Your aim is honestly terrible. She buried her face in my chest, pouting. You're so mean. I'll be even meaner tonight. Time to unlock some new techniques. All that deer blood every morning, plus the deer blood wine tonight. My body was overflowing with energy. The next day, I went to old Zhao the blacksmith's house. I could hear the hammering from far off. But when I arrived, I was surprised to find Zhou Dahai there too, stripped to the waist, hammering iron alongside Zhao. Old Zhao quickly pulled me aside and explained. Zhou Dahai was his junior apprentice. They'd learned blacksmithing from the same master. Dahai never got registered as a craftsman, got drafted into the army 1 year, took an arrow through his foot, and came home crippled. Now he scraped by on a few thin acres. He wanted to work with us. I said nothing for a while. Just stood there, hands behind my back, listening. I could feel Zhao starting to sweat. For some reason, people get nervous when I go quiet. Finally I said, I agree. Zhao nearly jumped with relief. But understand this, Uncle Zhao. From now on, if you want to bring someone in, you talk to me first. I say yes, you do it. I say no, you don't. No more acting on your own. Clear, crystal clear. He nodded hard, wiping sweat from his forehead. I called Zhou Dahai over. The man limped up with an honest grin. Uncle Zhou, you want to follow me? Fine. One rule. My word is final. No questions, no hesitation. Can you accept that? Absolutely, he said, thumping his chest. Your character, your courage, your ability. I respect every bit of it, down to the last hair on my body. If you'll have me, my life is yours. You tell me to die, I won't even blink. Besides, you already saved my life once. I gave them both the same deal, 1 tael of silver per month. Zhao could teach Dahai the special forging methods I'd shared, but they must never leak them to outsiders. Both men straightened up and swore they'd pay with their lives if the secrets ever got out. That's a bit much, I said, patting their shoulders. But a man must keep his word. As I walked away, I heard Zhou Dahai say behind me, mark my words, that young man will be a lord or a minister someday. Following him now, that's getting in on the ground floor. Over the next 2 days, we trained, gathered firewood, and boiled salt as usual. At one point, a loud boom echoed from deep in the forest. Then Qinxiu, Dashi, and Xiaobai came stumbling back with soot-blackened faces, but every one of them grinning like mad. The experiment had worked. On the 4th day, I led everyone to the county town to deliver salt. This time I brought all of them, Qinxiu, Dashi, Xiaobai, plus Zhao and Zhou Dahai. I rode by Yuxiang's snow lion horse, a magnificent white stallion that stood half a head taller than any other mount. The others each rode a horse too, with all weapons hidden in the cart. Old Zhao drove the double horse wagon, loaded with 400 jin of refined salt and a pile of deer blood wine. We got to the city and sold the deer blood wine first. 100 taels of silver, just like that. Zhou Dahai and old Zhao couldn't stop staring at the pile of shiny white silver. They couldn't believe that much money came from selling a bit of wine. Then I pulled out 10 taels and split it among Qinxiu, Dashi, and Xiaobai, their share of the deer-raising profits. Zhao and Zhou Dahai's eyes nearly popped out. A normal family earns maybe 4 or 5 taels in an entire year, and these boys who'd been working with me for just days were getting over 3 taels each. Zhou Dahai's loyalty hit a whole new level right then. Where else would he find a boss this generous? We bought grain, crucibles, ink sticks, borax, and a pile of other supplies, then headed to the salt shop. This time I brought only Qinshu with the cart and told the others to wait outside the city. The shop manager, Ma Huan, spotted me from far away and came trotting over with his greasy little smile. The young master is here to deliver again. Come, come. Our young boss is waiting inside. The workers weighed the salt. For 100 jin exactly. Back home we still had about 85 jin left over, plus what we'd saved before. Nearly 130 jin total. Soon I could start delivering 200 jin every day. I went into the back room. Bai Yuxiang was nowhere around, probably already in position outside the city. But Lin Linger was there, standing by the window. When she saw me, she turned and gave me this sweet little smile, her voice soft as a night breeze. You're here? I blinked. Something was off. Her smile looked forced, and that gentle voice sounded like she was squeezing it through a tiny crack. This was nothing like the sharp, decisive businesswoman I'd dealt with before. Please, sit down, she said, walking over with her waist swaying side to side in this exaggerated way. It wasn't attractive, it was just strange, like she was doing it on purpose but had no practice at it. Have some tea. She poured me a cup and held it out with both hands, looking pleased with herself, probably thinking she had me charmed. I couldn't take it anymore. I cleared my throat. Miss Lin, I think you should just be yourself. What? I mean, our business arrangement continues as normal. But the forced sweetness, you don't need to do that. It's uncomfortable for you, and it's awkward for me. Her face turned bright red. She looked like she wanted the floor to swallow her whole. Then she dropped the act entirely. Li Chun, the person who saved me that night, was it you or not? No, I said, keeping my face blank. Am I really so beneath you that you won't even admit to saving me? She glared at me, teeth clenched. I'm just here to do business, I reminded her. Fine. You want to keep pretending? Go ahead. Let's talk business then. I'll talk you to death. Funny thing was, this version of her, eyes flashing, sharp-tongued, ready to fight. This was the real Lin Ling, the one I'd seen that night. The cold businesswoman at the counter was just another mask. This girl was actually quite skilled at wearing different faces. She'd do well in politics. We got down to the real discussion. Her proposal was straightforward, and when she talked business, she snapped right back into that ruthless merchant mode. At one point, she wanted my salt refining method. I refused. Family secret, couldn't share it. She didn't take that well. Don't push your luck. I've already shown maximum sincerity. What more do you want? She shouted as I walked out. Give him 3,000 jin of salt and 2,000 taels of silver. Let him go. She barked at Ma Huan. Ma Huan bowed and scraped, but I could see those beady little eyes of his spinning like wheels. He'd overheard us arguing about the secret formula, and now he was scheming. If Lin Linger wanted my recipe too, then he'd better move fast on whatever plan he had cooking. After I left, Lin Linger called Ma Huan into the back room. She put on a trusting face and told him he was the person she relied on most in the whole shop, her father's loyal man of nearly 10 years. Ma Huan sat down, nodding eagerly, his face a picture of devotion. Absolutely loyal. Whatever you need, I'll do it without hesitation, but I already had a feeling about that man. Those shifty little eyes never stopped calculating. Lin Linger told Ma Huan her plan. She wanted him to go after me, befriend me, figure out my salt refining secret. She offered him a 10% cut if he succeeded. Ma Huan could barely contain his excitement. This was exactly the chance he'd been waiting for. Now he could approach me without raising suspicion. But as he left, I noticed Lin Linger watching his back with a cold, sharp look in her eyes. She was testing him. Smart girl. I drove the cart out of the city, moving fast on purpose. When I reached the meeting spot where Zhao and the others were waiting, I slowed down. Sure enough, hoofbeats came from behind. Ma Huan, riding hard, waving and calling out for me to stop. The young boss sent me to chat with you about a few things. Do you have a moment? Sure. This way. I gestured toward the dense forest beside the road. He followed me in without a second thought. We tied up the horses. He started talking, hands clasped politely, but before he could finish his first sentence, I struck one palm to his carotid artery. His eyes rolled back, and he dropped. Xiao Bai and the others rushed out, dragged him deep into the woods. Zhao and Zhou Dahai took the cart, and slipped away on a back road toward the village. Then came the screaming from deep in the forest. It lasted only a moment before going silent. Someone stuffed his mouth. We got what we needed out of him. Qinshu stumbled out first, white as paper, and threw up. He'd never seen anything that bloody before. Xiaobai was leaning against a tree, vomiting too. Dashi tried to laugh at them. Can't handle a little mess? How are you going to follow Brother Chun? Then he doubled over and puked as well. I walked out with blood on my hands. Qinshu hurried over with a water skin to wash them clean. That's when hoofbeats thundered from the opposite direction. A dozen fast horses burst into the forest. Leading them was Bai Yuxiang, beautiful and fierce as always, with an unconscious, blood-soaked man slung across her saddle. Two of her riders carried captives too. Her men looked me over with complicated expressions, curiosity, doubt, and open hostility. When they saw how young I was, the contempt grew thicker. I ignored them. Did you get them all? Every last one, she said with a grin, dismounting. Her people dumped 3 bodies on the ground. 3 lookouts, I frowned. Ma Huan had been more careful than I expected. Spread out half a li apart, moving in relay, she explained. If we'd only grabbed the first 1 or 2, the third would have spotted it and run. Lucky I brought extra teams. Not a single one slipped through. Black Wind's stronghold won't hear a thing. Well done, I said, and I meant it. She was thorough and sharp. Oh my dear Qinshin is praising me. I'm so happy. She pressed a hand to her chest and gave me this flirty smile. The whole clearing went dead silent. Qinshu, Dashi, and Xiaobai exchanged glances, silently agreed they'd heard absolutely nothing, and went back to dragging prisoners. But her men? Their eyes burned red with fury. Bai Yuxiang was their goddess, their idol, and here she was cooing, my dear Qinshin, at some teenage boy. You're doing this on purpose, I said flatly. What do you mean, on purpose? You've already ridden me 4 times. I'm completely devoted to you now. She gazed at me all lovingly, though I caught the mischief flickering in her eyes. Ridden her 4 times? The men behind her looked ready to explode. Li Chun, draw your blade. One of them leaped off his horse and pulled a long saber, pointing it straight at me. Bai Yuxiang leaned close, her breath warm against my face. Don't think I don't know what you're planning, Qinshin. You want to take over my Xiang stronghold, don't you? Well, here's your chance. Beat these captains of mine, win their respect, and the stronghold is yours. And of course, so am I. She giggled. I kept my expression still. How did you know I wanted your stronghold? You deliberately beat me 4 times, Bai Yuxiang said with a grin. You crushed my pride and dignity. If all you wanted was a business deal, you wouldn't have gone that far. So the answer is obvious. You want me and my stronghold. Besides, a man without ambition isn't much of a man. I looked at her with new respect. She'd read me perfectly. Instead of feeling embarrassed about being found out, I actually admired her more. This woman was no simple bandit chief. Li Chun, draw your blade. The angry man behind her roared again. He's all yours, Qinshan, Bai Yuxiang said playfully, backing away. State your name, I said. Cheng Guang, 2nd chief of Xiang stronghold. I don't need a weapon for you. He charged with a roar, swinging his saber down hard, though I noticed he'd flipped it to the blunt edge. Even furious, he wasn't trying to kill me. We were supposed to fight together against Black Wind stronghold, after all. He just wanted to teach me a lesson. I respected that, but it didn't change what happened next. I moved faster than his blade. I slipped inside his guard like a ghost, grabbed his wrist, locked his arm, drove my hip into him, and threw one clean over the back toss. He slammed into a tree trunk and lay there struggling to get up. My body was recovering nicely, about 50% of my former strength after just half a month. Not bad at all. Who's next? The 3rd chief, Lu Handong, stepped forward with a solid iron staff that must have weighed 20 jin. He thrust it at me like a spear, also holding back, which I appreciated. I deflected it along my left arm, grabbed the shaft, and yanked. When he pulled back hard, I let go suddenly. His own force threw him off balance, and he stumbled backward. I was already there. A backhand strike to the stomach. Not too hard, not too soft. He doubled over and vomited everywhere. I'd already dodged clear. 2 chiefs down in seconds. Bai Yuxiang clapped and cheered. Beautiful moves. Her men stared at her with wounded eyes. Whose side was she on? The rest of you. Come at me together. I'm in a hurry. They looked at each other, faces burning with shame and rage. Fighting me all at once was humiliating, but their two best fighters had already lost to my bare hands. One at a time, they had no chance. Fine. Get him. They threw down their weapons and rushed me from every direction. 3 came first, 1 going for my waist, 2 grabbing at my arms and legs. The middle one caught my knee under his chin and dropped unconscious. Without stopping, I sidekicked the one on my right, sending him flying. Then I pivoted, drove my shoulder into the one on my left, Bajiquin, the close body slam. He crashed backward into 2 more men. After that, I was a tiger among sheep. Fists, elbows, knees, feet, shoulders, everything was a weapon. High strikes, low sweeps, long punches, short hooks. 10 breaths. Less than 10 breaths, and all 13 of them were on the ground. Every single one. And I'd held back. If I hadn't, bones would have shattered. Some might have died. I stood there, breathing out slowly, a light sweat on my forehead, but no real fatigue. 20 days of hard training had paid off. Anyone want to keep going? They sat on the ground in silence, holding their bruises, heads down. Nobody said a word. I could see it in their eyes, defeat, shock, and deep fear. Barehanded against all of them, and I hadn't taken a single hit. I turned toward the deep woods. Chinxiu and the others had finished questioning the 3 lookouts. I'd made them watch my entire interrogation of Ma Huan earlier, forced them to see every moment. It wasn't just about teaching them techniques. They needed to grow up fast. They needed to see blood. The 3 lookouts had cracked easily. Cowards, all of them. Their story matched what Ma Huan had told us perfectly. Black Wind Stronghold sat deep in the Taibai Mountains, 20 li from here. The boss was a man called Lu Haizi. Their second chief had already died at our village. The third chief was Ma Huan himself. The fourth, that smooth-talking scout Zhang Guang, I'd killed earlier. Black Wind Stronghold just didn't know it yet. They still had over 70 men in the stronghold, waiting for word, ready to come snatch me and steal my salt refining secret. Bai Yuxiang sauntered over and hooked her arm through mine. Qinshin, you're so amazing. I just adore you. You should teach me sometime. I'll let you ride me any way you like. The things that came out of this woman's mouth. Move out, I ordered. We brought Ma Huan and the 3 lookouts along and headed straight for Black Wind Stronghold. Bai Yuxiang's crew numbered about 30, not her full force, but they didn't have enough horses for everyone. Still, these 30 were all tough, strong young men. Some could even read, which impressed me. Good foundation to work with. With the captured men guiding us, we wound through the mountains until we reached a hilltop 5 li from the stronghold. In the last light of sunset, I could see it across the way, a flattened mountaintop covered with sloppy wooden buildings. The front had a wall of logs, about 2 zhang high, with a main gate and 3 roads leading down. Behind it, nothing but sheer cliffs, 100 zhang straight down, too steep even for monkeys. We stopped to rest and eat. No fires, couldn't risk being spotted. My boys and I ate white flour steamed buns, roasted birds dipped in fine salt, pickled radish, and salted potatoes. The Xiang stronghold men couldn't stop staring. They were chewing dark mixed grain buns that might as well have been sawdust. Some of them started swallowing their saliva just watching us eat. I've always taken food seriously. Back in my mercenary days, commanding thousands of soldiers, my one rule for logistics was simple. No matter the cost, the fighters eat well, especially high-energy food. You can't fight on an empty stomach. Dashi, of course, had to show off. He tilted his head back and smacked his lips as loud as possible, making the Xiang men drool even harder. After my boys were full, I told them to share the leftovers, half a bun each for the Xiang men, plus the remaining birds, pickles, and salt. Nothing wins hearts faster than sharing food, especially in times when food is scarce. Just like that, the distance between us and them shrank. Some even called out, "Thanks, Brother Chun." Bai Yuxiang tried to kiss my cheek. I turned my head and dodged it. "Want another beating?" I said. She pouted, then snatched the bun right out of my hand and bit into it. "I like eating what you've had. It's like an indirect kiss." I rubbed my temples and moved on to business. "Here's the plan. 3 of your people stay here to guard the horses. The rest split up to block the side paths and the main road. Post lookouts on the high ground. Nobody escapes. The 4 of us go into the stronghold at night and wipe them out." "What? Just 4 of you? Against almost 80 bandits? And you want to wipe them all out?" Cheng Guang and Lu Handong stared at me like I was talking in my sleep. I raised my eyes and looked at them. Just a look, but I let a bit of my killing intent leak through. Both of them felt it. Their hands trembled. They'd already been beaten by me once today, and now with the weight of my pressure bearing down, they lowered their heads without another word. Execute the plan. 2 teams of visible sentries, 2 hidden. Absolute security. Now, rest. I lay down behind a rock, used a modern relaxation technique I'd learned in my past life, releasing tension from head to neck to limbs, and within minutes I was deep asleep. Past midnight. No moon. Perfect darkness. The kind of night made for killing. The 4 of us crept through the black with Ma Huan's body strapped to our backs, right up to the base of the wooden wall. We were so close I could hear bandits snoring inside. 2 watchtowers flanked the gate, 1 on each side. 4 guards total, slumped in the towers with swords in their laps, fast asleep. They never bothered with shift changes. Why would they? The stronghold was buried deep in the mountains, hidden behind endless twisting paths. Nobody who didn't live here could ever find it. So the guards just slept. I pointed at Xiaobai and Qinshu, then at the east tower. Made a chopping motion with my hand. Then I pointed at Dashi and myself, then the west tower. Same signal. We drilled these hand signs until they were second nature. Everyone nodded. 2 teams. 2 towers. We split up and moved in. When the wind picked up and the pine trees roared, we used the noise as cover. We fired iron grappling hooks onto the gate with our crossbows, then climbed. I went up one side, Qinshu went up the other. Xiaobai's arm was still healing, so climbing and killing right after wasn't ideal for him. Truth is, none of the 3 were really ready for this. But that was exactly why I brought them. They needed to grow. Only blood could turn them into real warriors. I scaled the wall fast, hands pulling, feet pushing off the wood, shooting up a meter with each push. 5 pushes and I was at the watchtower. 2 bandits slept in the corners, hugging their swords. I drew my short blade, covered the first one's mouth, cut his throat. Then the second. 3 breaths, 2 kills. Then I felt something wrong. I grabbed my crossbow, crouched, and fired across 40 paces into the other tower. The bolt went straight through a bandit's open mouth and pinned him to the railing. Qinshu had killed his first man, sliced the artery like I'd taught him, but he'd lost control of the dying body. The man's thrashing leg kicked the second bandit awake. That bandit was just opening his mouth to scream when my bolt arrived. Qinshu looked at me from across the distance, ashamed. I signaled him, keep moving. We climbed down from the towers. Dashi carried Ma Huan's body to the main hall while the 3 of us crept to the grain storehouse. We hauled bag after bag of flour to the hall, working in total silence. We rigged everything up, then slipped back into the shadows. Dashi pulled out a brass gong and smashed it with everything he had. Disaster. The 3rd chief snuck back and hanged himself in the great hall. The racket tore through the night. Lights flickered on everywhere. Half-naked bandits stumbled out of their rooms, grabbing torches, all running toward the hall. They lit the big tallow candles inside and saw Ma Huan's body hanging from the main beam, slashed with over a dozen cuts, blood dripping onto the floor. How did he get back here? How did he die? They shouted. Move aside. A massive man shoved through the crowd. Lu Haizi, the boss. 7 feet tall, built like a bull, face black as coal. When he saw Ma Huan dangling up there, his eyes went red and he let out a roar of grief. All his original partners were dead now. Get him down, he screamed. They scrambled to cut the ropes. But the moment they untied the body, the ropes snapped upward like a trigger because it was one. Above them, dozens of bags lining the rafters burst open at once, dumping flour down in a white avalanche. In seconds, the hall was a choking cloud of powder. Nobody could see. Nobody could breathe. Which idiot hung flour bags from the ceiling? Lu Haizi cursed between coughs. Then a torch flame jumped. The candle flames danced wildly. And before anyone could react, the explosion shook the mountain. Dust explosion. That was the centerpiece of my plan. Flour particles suspended in air, plus open flame. Basic science from my past life, devastating in this one. The great hall was flattened instantly. More than 20 bandits inside were blown apart. Nothing left but shredded meat. The shockwave carried fire outward, hurling another dozen men near the entrance into the air. The closest ones were torn to pieces. The middle ones burned black. The ones further back flew and hit the ground spitting blood, organs ruptured. The whole stronghold was on fire. Up on the ridge, I knew Cheng Guang and the others were watching. I could imagine their faces. They'd never seen anything like this. Lu Handong probably thought I was some kind of thunder god. As for Bai Yuxiang, I figured she was realizing just how smart she'd been not to fight me to the bitter end. I stepped out of the shadows with my 3 boys. The surviving bandits were stumbling around in the firelight, blind with terror, running in every direction. I raised my crossbow and smiled. Hunting time. Come on, I'll teach you how to kill. The 3 of them charged forward with a battle cry. Dashi was the spearhead. Qinshu and Xiaobai flanked him on each side. Their teamwork was rough. First real combat together, that's expected. But the bandits were in even worse shape, completely broken, and that gave my boys the perfect training ground to learn on. The 3 of them opened fire with their crossbows first. But first battle, nerves got the best of them. Xiaobai hit 1 out of 3. Qinshu hit 1 out of 5. Dashi emptied his entire bolt magazine and didn't hit a single thing. Nearly snapped his own hand with the bowstring. By then the surviving bandits had spotted us and came charging with weapons raised. That was fine. Close combat was Dashi's world. Dashi took point with his short spear. Qinshu flanked with sword and shield. Xiaobai stayed back as our crossbow sniper. The 3 of them charged straight into the enemy without hesitation. Dashi's first strike knocked aside a bandit's saber, and his spear punched clean through the man's chest. 2 more rushed him before he could pull it free. So he drew his sword and spun his whole body into a slash that cut a man in half, diagonally, top to bottom. Our modern forged blades against their crude iron weapons? No contest. Their swords shattered on contact with ours. Qinshu blocked a strike meant for Dashi's blind side, and the bandit's blade snapped in 2. Qinshu drove his own sword into the man's gut. Behind them, Xiaobai sent a bolt through one bandit's chest with enough force left over to pin another man's leg to the ground. Their teamwork was rough at first, but the 3-man formation was already showing its power. I stayed close, calling out instructions non-stop as they fought. Dashi, don't charge too far ahead, stay tight. Keep covering each other. Xiaobai, watch the rear. Qinshu, team up with Dashi. 2-on-1, kill fast and move. Push forward. Cover left. Shift right. Qinshu takes point. Sword and shield together. Crossbow support from range. When you're empty, draw your blade, catch your breath, then reload. I was teaching them battlefield tactics in real time, in the middle of real blood and fire. Whenever a bandit was stupid enough to come at me, I dropped him with a bolt or a single sword stroke, almost without breaking my conversation. When the squad got in trouble, I'd send a crossbow bolt to bail them out. Their coordination evolved fast. Clumsy at first, then smooth, then almost seamless. Their skills grew, their experience grew, and most importantly, their courage exploded. On a battlefield, new soldiers grow by the second. By the end, they'd forgotten fear entirely. They'd pushed past that first wall of terror, killed a few men, and something switched inside them. They stopped thinking about death. They just fought. Wherever the enemy was thickest, they charged right in. The stronghold became a burning hell. Flames, screams, blood spraying everywhere. Up on the ridge, I knew the Xiang stronghold men were watching in disbelief. Chen Guang's hands were shaking. Lu Handong was muttering that we must be heavenly soldiers. Bai Yuxiang, I heard later she was screaming that she'd give her entire stronghold as a dowry just to have me. When it was over, there was nobody left to kill. The survivors were on their knees, crying, begging for mercy. Completely broken. What do we do with these bastards? Dashi growled, still hunting for more targets, blood dripping from his blade in a thin red line. Qinshu and Xiaobai looked just as fierce, disappointed the fighting was done. After their first real taste of slaughter, these 3 boys had transformed. 3 newborn killing gods. Exactly what I'd wanted to see. Then all 3 doubled over and threw up. First real kills. The adrenaline had kept the nausea down during the fight. Now it caught up. Open the gate. Let the Xiang people in, I said. When they entered, they found the 4 of us standing among the flames and the bodies. I stood in front, leaning on my sword. The other 3 stood behind me like 3 peaks around a mountain. The stench of blood hit them like a wall. Some of the Xiang men turned and vomited immediately. Even Chen Guang and Lu Handong went pale. Bodies everywhere, not whole ones either. Missing limbs, spilled guts, men cut clean in 2. It looked less like a battlefield and more like a slaughterhouse. Bai Yuxiang walked toward me, her face white behind her dust cloth. She started to call me, Qinshan, like usual, but when I turned and looked at her, standing there among the corpses and fire, something in my eyes stopped her cold. Chun, Brother Chun, she corrected herself quietly. Our team swept every path up the mountain. Nobody escaped. You did it. Total annihilation. She let out a long breath. 4 against 80. 1 to 20. Complete victory, 0 casualties. Cheng Guang whispered, his eyes trembling. Only a war god could do this. Not even General Guan Tianyu of Northern Goose Pass could match it. That caught my attention. You served in the military? Yes, Brother Chen. I was a junior officer under General Guan Tianyu at Northern Goose Pass. He bowed deeply, with genuine respect and fear. If you were a soldier with military rank, why did you become a bandit? I asked, raising an eyebrow. My family, 13 people, old and young, were all killed by bandits, Cheng Guang said, his head low with shame. The local officials took credit for nothing and ignored everything. I deserted the army to get revenge. Loyalty and righteousness can't always walk the same path. I understand, I said. He froze. His nose went red, and he whispered, Thank you, Brother Chun. I don't think even he knew why those words hit him so hard. Years of shame and being judged, and then someone strong enough to matter finally said they understood. I turned to Lu Handong. And you? Bandits took our grain. My whole family starved. The boss saved me, so I followed her, honest and simple. I noticed that strong men tend to be straightforward like that. Bai Yuxiang told me the rest of her people all had similar stories. Every one of them had lost someone to bandits. As for bad deeds, she said their only crime was killing too many bandits and robbing too many corrupt rich families. I believed her. Qinshu came over, wiping blood from his hands. We finished the interrogations. Lu Haizi and all the leaders died in the explosion. These few survivors are all that's left. No one escaped. He'd grown fast. Just one day, and he was already getting used to the rough work. Also, like you ordered, we had them rat each other out. Not a single innocent man among them. Every one of them did unspeakable things. His eyes burned with fury. Some of the things those bandits had done, tossing babies on blade tips for fun, cutting hearts from living people to cook. Qinshu could barely hold back from killing them right there. Xiaobai brought the loot count. About 10,000 taels of silver, 30,000 jin of grain, and 35 horses. Not bad at all. Then Dashi popped out of a hole in the ground, shouting. He'd found a dungeon. One by one, women crawled out, over 80 of them, all young, the youngest around 14, the oldest maybe 27. Half-dressed or worse. When they saw the bodies and blood everywhere, they huddled together on the ground, too terrified to even scream. Dashi told me quietly that they'd all been kidnapped after the bandits killed their families. Some were refugees. There used to be almost 200. Half had been tortured to death. The Xiong men gripped their weapons tight, every face twisted with rage. These women reminded each one of them of their own painful past. Bai Yuxiang went to the women and spoke softly. They burst into joyful cries, then collapsed into each other's arms, sobbing. She cried with them. Brother Chun, Cheng Guang said, staring at the surviving bandits, his voice desperate. Please, let us deal with them. Every Xiong man looked at me with the same begging eyes. Fine, I said. Thank you, Brother Chun, they bowed together. But first, I want to see your archery. Cheng Guang called out 4 bowmen. They carried standard military bows, decent but nothing special. Only 4 archers in the whole outfit, a bit thin. But training real bowmen takes years. Unlike our pulley crossbows where you mostly just need to learn aim. You get one chance. Show me how many you can kill. Dashi, cut them loose. Dashi chopped through the rope binding the 13 surviving bandits and laughed. Run, you rats. Let's see if your legs are faster than their arrows. The bandits scattered in every direction, screaming, running for the gate. I let them get 30 paces out. Shoot. Arrows flew. But whether from nerves or poor skill, the archers missed more than they hit. By the time the bandits reached the gate, only 7 were down. 6 were still alive, sprinting for freedom, already over 50 paces away. Too far for these bowmen to hit anything. Useless, Cheng Guang cursed, about to chase them down on foot. But I'd already moved. I spun, snatched a bow from one of the archers, pulled 3 arrows from the quiver in one grab, knocked all 3 at once, and fired. Before those arrows even landed, I already had 3 more on the string. The bowstring roared again. 6 arrows, like Death Stars streaking across the firelit sky. Every arrow hit. 6 shots, 6 kills, all punching clean through from back to chest. The remaining bandits dropped in 2 waves and didn't move again. 60 paces. 3 arrows at once. Arrow God. Cheng Guang was gasping. He explained later what those terms meant. 1 arrow after another is called chain shooting. 2 arrows fired together is called sun and moon. That's elite level. 3 arrows at once is called 3 stars blazing, the highest rank anyone has ever seen in any army. And I'd just done it twice in a row at 60 paces. Every man from Xiang's stronghold stood there frozen, mouths hanging open. I could see them thinking, if this man had unlimited arrows and stamina, he could hold a mountain pass alone against an entire army. I tossed the bow back to its owner. The archer caught it and held it like a holy relic, a bow touched by an arrow god. Your eyes are too slow, your hands aren't steady, your arms are weak, and your aim is off, I told the 4 bowmen. Keep practicing. From anyone else, that would have been an insult. From me, they took it as a blessing. Every one of them stared at me like they wished I'd say more. Bai Yuxiang walked over clapping, eyes locked onto me like a cat watching a bird. My boys later told me they were convinced she was about to eat me alive. She leaned on my shoulder like I was a wall and turned to her people. My dear Qinshin, the arrow god himself. Are you convinced? Yes. 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 They roared as one voice, shaking the whole stronghold. Before I could pull away, she announced, from this moment, I step down. Qinshin is the new chief of Xiang stronghold. Do you accept? Every single one of them dropped to their knees instantly. We greet Brother Chun, you heartless lot, she pouted. I was just being modest, and you actually threw me away. I turned and looked at her. She smiled softly. They're yours now. And so am I. She puckered her lips and went up on her toes to kiss me. I stepped neatly to one side. She stamped her foot. You're the worst of them all. Since that's settled, I won't make a fuss about it. From now on, we're all brothers. Get the wine. Someone brought out jugs from the stronghold. Everyone got a bowl. Raise your cups, I called out. Spring rain nourishes the same roots. We lean on the railing and breathe as one. I don't ask that we crush everything before us, only that our iron shoulders carry justice. Drink this, and from now on, we share the same fate, in life and in death. To justice, Cheng Guang roared, and every man drank deep and smashed their bowls on the ground. Then Cheng Guang drew his knife and slashed his left palm, blood pouring down. If I break this oath, let my blood spill within 5 steps. Every Xiang man did the same, the most binding oath among outlaws. I cut my own palm too, and pressed it against every man's bloody hand. Blood mixed with blood, brothers from this night forward. Qinshu, Dashi, and Xiaobai watched all this with their jaws on the floor. Then they cut their palms too and joined in. Take 3,000 taels from the silver and split it among the brothers, I said. The rest stays for the stronghold's future. 3,000 taels, just like that? Bai Yuxiang raised an eyebrow. That's money you nearly died for. I want every brother to know. Follow me. And there's wine to drink, meat to eat, money to spend, and a good life waiting. And what about me? She asked. I gave you my whole stronghold. Don't I deserve a good life too? What did you have in mind? Marry me. I'll cook for you, stand behind you, be your woman. What do you say? She expected me to dodge like always. That's what excited her, the chase. So I didn't dodge. Perfect, I said calmly. Dark night, no moon, ideal for a wedding. Why wait? Let's do it right now. I grabbed her waist, threw her over my shoulder, and started walking toward the one wooden building still standing uphill. Wait, you're serious? She squirmed free, face burning red, genuinely flustered for the first time. She'd been playing the game of teasing. She never expected me to flip the board. Of course I'm serious, I said, stepping toward her again, hand reaching out. Unless you were just pretending this whole time, I'm not ready yet. When I'm ready, I'll tell you. She turned and ran. The whole crowd burst out laughing. So the fearless Bai Yuxiang could be scared after all. I watched her flee and smiled. She loved the idea of the dragon, but panicked when the real thing showed up. If she wanted to play this game with me, she had a lot of growing up to do. We swept the stronghold one final time to make sure no bandit had slipped away, then hauled everybody outside and burned them on a pyre. Cheng Guang and Lu Handong stood outside the ruined Great Hall, staring at the destruction. The whole building had been leveled flat. The bodies inside had to be shoveled out in pieces. They kept circling the wreckage, trying to figure out how the explosion worked. Brother Dashi, did you use gunpowder? Chung Guang asked. He'd seen military explosives before, but nothing like this. We used flour, Dashi said with a grin. Flour? Their eyes went wide. I don't know how it works either. I just did what Brother Chen told me. We rigged a trigger so when they cut down the body, the flour dumped from the ceiling. Then it exploded. Dashi was actually being clever about it, telling them 90% of the truth and holding back the key 10%. Not bad for a supposedly simple guy. Qinshu and Xiaobai noticed too, hiding their smiles. Cheng Guang and Lu Handong couldn't crack the mystery. They started guessing that maybe I knew Taoist thunder magic. That rumor spread through the whole camp, and by the end of the night, the brothers had me turning stones to gold and summoning armies from handfuls of beans. Dashi and the boys thought this was hilarious. That night, everyone collapsed. A full day of marching and fighting had left them exhausted. But when Cheng Guang woke up to relieve himself, he found me standing alone in the watchtower, keeping watch. Nobody had remembered to post a guard. I hadn't asked anyone to do it. I'd just quietly taken the shift myself. He stood there watching me for a long time. I heard him whisper something about a general who watches over his soldiers in the night wind. I think that moment meant more to him than all the fighting. The next morning, the Xiang men were still buried in sleep when they heard shouts from outside. They grabbed their weapons and rushed out, thinking we were under attack. Instead, they found me training with Qinshu, Xiaobai, and Dashi in the yard, shirts off, dripping with sweat. We'd been at it for a while already. They looked at each other, ashamed. We'd fought half the night and still woke before dawn to train. They'd barely done anything and nearly slept till noon. What are you standing around for? Get dressed and train. Cheng Guang barked at them, then ran over to join us. Brother Chun, I'm sorry, we've been undisciplined for too long. Take your men. 20 laps around the stronghold. Go. I said it without any anger, just flat and calm. But I saw the chill run through him. When I speak without emotion, people find it harder to face me than when I shout. I wiped my sweat with a rag and stood in the middle of the yard, watching them run. Then I felt a familiar perfume drift up beside me. Training them, Qinshen, by Yuxiang's voice came soft as silk in my ear. I didn't turn around. Say what you came to say. What do you need from me? She froze. What? I don't like games. Get to the point. Li Chun, can you please stop showing off how smart you are? It's devastating to other people's pride. You know, she was frustrated. I'd read her again before she even opened her mouth. I'll take that as a compliment, I said, then shouted at the runners. Cheng Guang, if you're serious about training, speed up. Keep pace with Qinshu's group. Faster. I turned back to her. You went out of your way to set up chances for me to win over your men. You handed me your stronghold on a silver plate. If you're telling me there's nothing behind all of that, I don't buy it. How rude. Bai Yuxiang glared at me. She kicked a pebble across the ground, then finally said, Fine. I gave you the stronghold, but I have one condition. You have to help Linger find her father. Alive or dead. That surprised me. I'd expected her to want something for herself. Scared? She challenged. That doesn't work on me. I'm weighing the costs. You're treating this like a business deal. Every relationship between people is a deal. Sometimes you trade feelings, sometimes you trade interests. You're like a thinking machine made of iron. Even your logic sounds cold. I ignored that. What exactly is your relationship with Lin Linger? Why would you sacrifice this much for her? She told me everything. Lin Linger's father, Lin Yufeng, was a well-known salt merchant from beyond the border. Bai Yuxiang grew up alongside Linger like sisters. After her own father died, Lin Yufeng treated her like his own daughter. Without the Lin family, she would have starved on the streets. And when she needed to build her strength and take revenge, it was Linger who secretly funded her. So yes, she said, I give you the stronghold, you find her father. That's how I repay what I owe her. More loyal than most men, I said. What happened to her father? She explained. 3 months ago, Lin Yufeng went to the Jianzhou salt fields by the Eastern Sea to buy salt. He never came back. Linger and Bai Yuxiang traveled there multiple times searching for him. All they learned was that when the Mo tribe saw the northern Mang and western Hu attacking our dynasty, they seized the chance to cause chaos too. Fighting broke out around the salt fields. The army eventually took them back, but the salt workers had all been captured, and Lin Yufeng, who was at the fields at the time, vanished. No body, no trace. Bai Yuxiang believed the Mo people took him because he knew how to make salt and could lead the workers. That made him valuable. There was a good chance he was still alive. I'll do it, I said. 3 months from now, when winter comes, I'll take Min into Mo territory and bring him back. She lit up. Really? Just like that? This deal? I'll take it. Can it be sooner? I'm afraid something might change. Know why I need 3 months? I pointed at Cheng Guang and the others, who were staggering through their laps, gasping like broken bellows. The line stretched out so thin the front runners nearly lapped the stragglers. Because they're useless. I need 3 months to turn that mess into real soldiers. Without them, I can't do it alone. She looked at them and understood. Then she cupped her hands into a trumpet and shouted across the yard. Brothers, Chin Chin says you're all useless. I pinched the bridge of my nose. 3 minutes. She couldn't stay serious for 3 minutes. Run. Faster, Cheng Guang screamed, face burning red. He's right. We are useless. Move. Damn it. They roared and pushed harder, kicking up clouds of black dust from the ground. And that's when something caught my eye. The dust was too dark. The ground itself was black, not just from last night's fires. Even down by the wall corners, the soil was stained dark. I crouched and dug with my fingers, 2 knuckles deep before I hit normal yellow earth. Everything above was black. I rubbed the dark soil between my fingers. Then it hit me. My eyes went wide. I stood up and threw the dirt into the wind, watching which way it scattered. The wind was blowing up from the cliff behind the stronghold. I took a deep breath and shouted to Dashi and the others, "Bring me rope." I needed to get down that cliff. Something was down there, and I had to find out what. "What are you doing?" Bai Yuxiang asked, watching me with confusion. "Something's off about this place," I said, walking past the wooden buildings to the back of the stronghold. I stood at the edge of the cliff and looked down. She told me the stronghold was called Black Wind because black wind always blew up from below, carrying dark dust that stained everything. That's why the ground was so dark everywhere. "Why is the wind black?" I asked. She didn't know. Qinshu and the others brought 3 big coils of rope, over 300 meters tied together, enough to reach the bottom. They checked every knot, then threw the rope over the edge. It slapped against the cliff face with a deep, echoing sound. "I'm going down alone first," I said. "If the rope holds and it's safe, I'll shake it to signal you." I jumped over the edge and climbed down like a monkey, fast and smooth. The cliff was steep and straight, but with rope in hand, it was nothing. At the bottom, I held my breath and checked for poisonous gas. Nothing. The air was clean and flowing. I saw a few scattered skeletons nearby, people who must have fallen from above. Then I looked around, and my heart nearly stopped. It was a massive valley, wide open, maybe 500 zhang across, surrounded by towering mountains on all sides. One narrow gorge led outward to somewhere unknown. There were no tall plants, just scraggly patches of wild grass growing poorly. And the ground, where wind and rain had stripped away the topsoil, was black. Exposed, solid black rock showing through in patches everywhere. Coal. It was coal. I guessed at the moment I saw the black dust up in the stronghold. Black powder blowing up from below meant only one thing, a coal deposit nearby. And not just any deposit. This was a surface mine, open to the sky. I ran over and grabbed a chunk. My hands were shaking, not from fear, but from pure excitement. In my past life, I'd spent years in the mining industry. I could grade coal quality at a glance. This was anthracite, the highest grade. Smokeless coal, the best fuel for smelting steel and iron. The foundation of basic industry. And it was right here on the surface. No need to dig shafts or tunnels. Just scoop it up and use it. I scanned the valley. The coal field stretched at least 10 or 15 square kilometers, maybe more. That meant reserves in the tens of millions of tons, minimum. For my current stage of development, that was more than enough. With this much coal, I could forge weapons to supply an army of 200,000. I clenched my fist. My eyes burned with ambition. Coal meant energy. If I could find an iron mine next and secure enough grain, just those 3 things, I could build a real base of power. Then something clicked in my mind. Maps from the local county records I'd been studying began overlapping with memories from my past life. Maps of the northeast region I knew from the modern world. Image after image lined up, merged, matched. I let out a long breath and smiled. So this is the Fuzhou coal mine. In my previous life, it wasn't a famous mine, small scale, built a modest city around it that eventually declined when the coal ran out. But before that happened, this one little mine had produced 60 million tons of quality coal, powering factories, lighting homes through power plants, driving 20 years of rapid growth. Past life and present, the mine was in the same place. And if this resource existed exactly where it had before, then what about all the others? The vast Northeast was sitting on enormous, untapped treasure: iron, copper, oil, everything. I looked up at the sky, heart pounding. If the geography of this world truly matched what I remembered, then I had just stumbled onto something beyond imagination. I wasn't just lucky. I was rich. I shook the rope 3 times. Soon Chinxiu, Dashi, and Xiaobai climbed down one at a time, careful not to overload the rope. Even Bai Yuxiang came down. What is this black stuff? Dashi picked up a chunk and turned it over in his hands. Chinxiu and Xiaobai had no idea either, but Bai Yuxiang recognized it right away. That's stone coal. I've seen rich families inside the pass use it for cooking fires. It's smoky and expensive though, and hard to mine. Not many people bother. Have you ever seen anyone use it to smelt iron? I asked. I've passed a few ironworks with Linger. They all use charcoal. Wait, are you saying this stuff can smelt iron? It can, I said. Let's go back up. Once we climbed out, I told her straight. Move Xiang's stronghold here. No way. This place is filthy. The black wind will turn everyone dark. I didn't argue. Fine. Then I'll bring other people to set up iron smelting and weapons forging here. The mountains are wide and tall, perfect for training soldiers too. I drew my sword and spun it through the air. I forged this blade myself. Eventually, everyone gets one. Wait, I changed my mind. I want in, just like that. The moment she heard about weapons and training, her eyes lit up. A bandit chief lives and dies by strength, and she'd seen what my blades could do. Cut through enemy swords like paper. I looked at her. Move tomorrow. Done. I tossed her my sword, sheath and all. It's yours. Is this an engagement gift? She caught it, beaming. Call it whatever you want. I rubbed my temples. Then Chinxiu came over, his face troubled. He was looking at the women, over 80 of them, huddled together eating breakfast. They were painfully thin from long abuse. Even though they were all young, their faces showed nothing but fear. They ate tiny bites, glancing up nervously after each one, terrified of being hit for eating too much. Their chopsticks were just twigs snapped off nearby trees. Brother Chen, what do we do with them? Chinxiu asked. Give each one a tael of silver for travel. Send them home. Chinxiu sighed. More than half are refugees. Their families are all dead. They have nowhere to go. The rest had their families murdered by the bandits. Even if they leave, they'll just end up wandering again or sold into brothels. You want to keep them here? I know it's hard to feed extra people in times like these, he said carefully, not meeting my eyes. But you're a good man, Brother Chun. You won't just watch them die. This stronghold needs workers anyway. They're young and able. Let them stay and do what they can. Before I could answer, the women had already heard us. One by one they set down their chipped bowls, stood up, walked over, and knelt before me. The oldest among them pressed her forehead to the ground. When she looked up, tears were streaming down her face. Great Chief, we have no home left under heaven. We know you're a good man. Please keep us. We can do anything. We eat very little. We won't be any trouble. Please. She knocked her head against the earth again. All the others followed, heads hitting the ground, crying and begging. The sound of it, all those foreheads and all that weeping, filled the whole yard. Every man around me looked pained. I could feel Bai Yuxiang watching me closely, tense, waiting to see what kind of man I really was. I walked over and helped the oldest woman to her feet. I let out a long breath. You've all suffered enough. Wind and rain have beaten you down far too long. Stay, silence. Complete silence. Then the place erupted. The women wept, not from despair this time, but gratitude, still bowing, still crying. The men raised their weapons and cheered. Someone shouted, Long live Brother Chun. I saw Bai Yuxiang let out a breath she'd been holding, her hand on her chest. The way she looked at me after that was different from all the teasing and flirting before. This time, it was real. Everyone who stays is family, I told them. Brothers and sisters, all equal. No ranks between men and women, no high or low, no noble or common. When there's work, you work. When there's training, you train. We look out for each other and build this place into a real home. That hit them hard. especially the women. Nobody had ever told them they were equal to anyone. The oldest woman stared at me in shock. You mean it? Of course. What's your name? Wan Hong. You're older than me, so I'll call you Sister Hong. No, Chief, I couldn't possibly. I just said everyone is equal. So yes, I can. I put my hands on her shoulders gently. From now on, younger people call you Sister Hong. Older ones call you Honger. Understood. The men around us raised their weapons and cheered her name. She wiped her tears hard and nodded. All the women stood up together, bowing and thanking everyone through their sobs. Chinshu came over and knelt before me. I acted without asking you first. I'm sorry. Punish me. I pulled him to his feet. Good deeds don't need permission first. You did nothing wrong. Then I smiled. I'm guessing you already have a plan for settling these women. He grinned. You really do see everything, Brother Chun. His idea was solid. We had my improved spinning wool design, build more of them, add looms, set up a weaving workshop. The women could produce cloth for our own use and sell the surplus for income to pay everyone's wages. I told him we'd build the looms ourselves instead of buying them. The haul from this operation was enormous. We'd wiped out every bandit in Blackwind Stronghold. We captured over 300 weapons, 50 bows, 1,000 arrows, over 10,000 taels of silver. After splitting 3,000 among the brothers, we still had 7,000. 30,000 jin of grain, 35 horses, half of them Maras. Most importantly, I'd gained the entire Xiang stronghold, over 100 proven fighters, everyone handpicked by Yu Xiang for character and courage. 30-odd were here with us now. The other 60 or 70 were still at the old location. Yu Xiang would handle the move within days. Add the 80 women, and we'd be pushing 200 people, all young and able. This was my foundation. I spent another half day there, drafting a training plan for Cheng Guang and Lu Handong to follow. I also told them to explore the coal mine valley and find where the gorge led, whether there was a ground-level entrance to the stronghold. I'd figured out by now that Yu Xiang was more of a spiritual leader than a manager. She was lazy, always running off. She'd rather escort Lin Linger salt caravans than stay home and run things. The real work fell on Cheng Guang and Lu Handong. They were good men, brave and honest, but they lacked the broader vision I needed for building this place into something great. I'm leaving Chinshu here, I announced. He'll handle the development plans and training. Cheng Guang, Handong, support him. Yu Xiang, since you like traveling anyway, you handle caravan security and keep our trade routes safe. Silence. Then shock. Everyone stared at Chinshu, this slim, bookish teenager, and the displeasure was obvious. Him, leading them, over Cheng Guang and Lu Handong. Even Chinshu pointed at his own nose. Me? Can I really do this? Lu Handong started to object, but Cheng Guang grabbed his arm and cut him off. Brother Chen, you're our leader. Whoever you appoint, we obey. Full cooperation. I looked at Cheng Guang with deep respect. A true soldier, obedience first, questions later. That quality would take him far. But then a big, rough man strode forward. Wei Yu, the fourth-ranked fighter in the stronghold, a hothead with excellent skills and top-notch archery. Brother Chen, you're a war god. We'd die for you without blinking. But this pale-faced boy telling us what to do? No way. I won't accept it. Brother Chun, maybe we should forget it. This will just cause problems, Chinshu whispered to me. I say you can do it, so you can. Step forward. Yes, Brother Chun. He stepped out instantly, fist to chest. Following my orders had become reflex for him. Can you make them respect you? I asked him directly. Yes, he shouted. I turned to Wei Yu. Your courage is admirable, so I'll allow you to challenge Chinshu. But tell me, do you speak for everyone in Xiang Stronghold? He looked at Yu Xiang, who was sitting on a rock cracking sunflower seeds like she was watching a show. Sure, he represents everyone. Cheng Guang stayed silent. Lu Handong pointed at Wei Yu. Brother Chen gave you a chance. Don't embarrass us. If you win, I told Wei Yu, you build this place your own way, and I'll just inspect occasionally. If you lose, Chinshu stays as chief. Cheng Guang and Handong serve as his deputies. His word is my word. Disobey, and you'll answer to me. Fair. The crowd shouted. They agreed on 3 contests: archery, weapons, and barehanded fighting. Chinshu went first with the crossbow. 3 shots, almost no pause between them. The semi-automatic design made reloading lightning fast. All 3 bolts hit the narrow post 40 paces away, stacked nearly on top of each other. Weeks of constant practice had made him deadly accurate. Even Cheng Guang and Lu Handong cheered. At that distance, on that thin a target, most bowmen couldn't dream of it. Chen Xiu offered Wei Yu his crossbow for fairness. Wei Yu refused and used his own bow. He took forever aiming, missed one shot entirely, and the other two barely wobbled onto the post. I lost that round. Weapons next, Wei Yu growled, face red. Chen Xiu grabbed a wooden stick, wrapped the tip with cloth, and dusted it with white lime. I'll use this as a spear. You pick whatever you want. Wei Yu took a wooden training saber and twirled it. You go first. The words barely left his mouth before Chen Xiu lunged. One explosive step, stick shooting straight at center mass like a bullet. A month of drilling the thrust technique, plus last night's real combat, had made his spear work devastating. The stick punched into Wei Yu's chest before his saber even came up. What kind of spear technique is that? Cheng Guang blurted out. Even Bai Yuxiang froze mid-bite on her sunflower seeds. You cheated. You attacked before I was ready, Wei Yu sputtered. You want to say that in front of Brother Qin? Cheng Guang snapped. Chen Xiu raised a hand calmly. It's fine. You go first this time. Wei Yu roared and swung his saber down hard. Chen Xiu thrust twice, two blurs in the air. The first knocked the blade aside. The second drove straight into Wei Yu's chest again. Wei Yu clutched his chest, gasping. Sorry about that, Chen Xiu said, tossing the stick aside. Third round. Hand to hand, he beckoned with one finger. Wei Yu charged like a bull and grabbed him. Chen Xiu caught his arms, faked a pull backward. When Wei Yu instinctively braced and straightened up, Chen Xiu reversed, pushed low, slapped high, and used Wei Yu's own momentum to slam him toward the ground. A classic wrestling throw. But then I saw the stone. Right where Wei Yu's skull was about to land. A jagged rock that would crack his head open. Chen Xiu saw it too late, squeezed his eyes shut. I was already moving. 3 quick steps. I reached out, caught both of them mid-fall, swung them through a half circle in the air, and set them down gently to the side. Chen Xiu dropped to one knee. Brother Chun, I'm sorry. I nearly caused a disaster. Accidents happen in a fight. Not your fault. Wei Yu turned and saw the stone. His face went white as he realized how close he'd come to death. After a long moment of heavy breathing, he walked over to me and knelt. Brother Chun, I submit. Completely. We're family. No need for formality. I pulled him up. Brother Su, you're incredible, Cheng Guang announced to the crowd. From now on, he's in charge here. Anyone disrespects him, I'll break their legs personally. Agreed, the whole stronghold roared, weapons raised. That settled it. No more doubts, no more challenges. Whatever I decided, nobody would question again. I left Chen Xiu behind and headed home with Dashi and Xiaobai. Bai Yuxiang happily dumped the stronghold on Chen Xiu's shoulders and ran off to find Lin Linger in the county town. Typical, completely unreliable. It was only 40 li back to Muir village. By early afternoon, we were riding up the mountain path. Before we even reached the house, the smell of cooking hit us, and not just any cooking. Meat. Are they stewing meat? Dashi sniffed the air, confused. Meat was expensive and rare. Serving it to the village women workers on a normal day seemed too lavish. I was puzzled too. Qingwan wasn't the type to waste money like that. Then something occurred to me, and I relaxed. We rounded the mountain bend and saw our home. The place was packed with people. When we rode up to the house, the whole village was there. Not just the women workers, but most of the men too. Qingwan and Lu Jinsue were running around cooking and directing helpers. The men were crowded around Zhao the blacksmith and Zhou Dehai, listening to them tell some story with wild excitement. A few of the men had wounds, some still bleeding through bandages. What happened? Did everyone get into a fight? Xiaobai asked, startled, but I already had a cold feeling in my gut. I'd expected something like this. Village chief Su Jiang spotted me from far away and came laughing. Here comes our little genius. He predicted everything. The villagers swarmed around us the moment we dismounted. Su Jiang explained it all. I'd warned them before leaving that the Wu family from Baisha village might try to ambush our salt delivery. Sure enough, they'd jumped Zhao and Zhou Dehai at the gorge. But the villagers I'd arranged as backup were already hidden there. They rushed out and sent the Wu men running. Those 2 blacksmiths are fierce, someone added. Zhao swung his iron hammer and sent men flying. Zhou Dehai with his big stick knocked them down in groups. The Wu family came with real swords and spears, over 20 strong men. If the whole village hadn't turned out, hundreds of us. We'd have been in serious trouble. How do they have so many fighting men who weren't drafted into the army? I asked, my eyebrows rising. Because they have connections at the county level. The county captain Wu Chuang controls the local militia. He pulls strings to keep their men home. I filed that away. Let's eat first. Qingwan had stewed some pine chickens and bought meat and wine to thank the villagers for protecting our salt. Everyone ate well. I gave each household 50 copper coins afterward, and 200 extra to each man who'd been hurt. People were nearly in tears. Between the regular work I'd been providing and these bonuses, every family in the village was eating properly now. At least 3 meals every 2 days instead of starving. We'd just finished handing out the money when a group of children came running up, faces pale with panic. The water channel dried up. There's no water. Su Jiang shot to his feet. The village had spent enormous effort this spring digging a 5-li irrigation channel from a branch of the Jade River, specifically to protect the crops in case of another drought. The rain this year was only average, but that channel had kept the fields green. If it stopped flowing in this heat, the crops would wilt in 3 days, lose half their yield in 7, and die completely in 2 weeks. I already knew what had happened. I called Xiaobai over, whispered some instructions, and sent him off on horseback out of the village. The men grabbed shovels and tools and followed the channel upstream. 5 li later, we could hear the river rushing. Plenty of water, no natural drought. We rounded a stand of trees and saw it. 100 people from Baisha village were piling dirt into our channel head, blocking it completely, cutting off our water supply. And standing over them with a broadsword was Wu Changqing, threatening his own villagers to keep working. Behind him stood a gang of tough Wu family men, watching like wolves. Stop! All of you stop! Su Jiang charged forward, shouting, gripping his shovel. The Baisha villagers looked up in fear and started backing away. But Wu Changqing's voice boomed like thunder. Keep working. Anyone who stops, you'll end up like Ma Wu. First they tried to rob our salt. Now they were cutting off our water. This was war. The Wu family men were beating Baisha village's own people, forcing the old and weak villagers to keep filling in our water channel. Their strong young men had all been drafted to the army. Only the helpless ones were left, too afraid to resist. Wu Changqing stood at the front with a steel saber and nearly 40 armed men behind him, blocking our path with a cruel grin. You dug this channel through our land without permission, he shouted. You ruined our village's feng shui. We have every right to block it. Back off. Anyone who steps forward gets cut down. Su Jiang was shaking with fury. This is murder. Without water, our whole village dies. We'll fight you. He raised his shovel, but I pressed it back down. This started because of me. I'll handle it, I said. I walked forward and saw someone lying in the dirt, covered in blood. It was Ma Wu, Baisha village's own chief. I knelt beside him and helped him up. They forced our entire village at sword point to block your channel, he gasped. I refused, so they beat me half to death. Please, whatever you do, don't blame our villagers. They had no choice. Then something far worse happened. From the nearby trees, a girl of about 14 or 15 stumbled out, naked, carrying a small boy whose legs were covered in blood. She was sobbing hysterically. Behind her, several teenage boys strolled out of the woods, some still tying their belts, laughing. Her mother screamed and ran to cover her with a jacket. Mama, the girl wailed, those Wu family animals, they cut off my little brothers. Just for fun. They said they wanted to make the village's first eunuch. When I tried to save him, they held me down in the woods and took turns. The mother saw both her children, one mutilated, one violated, and collapsed unconscious on the ground. And those young monsters? They didn't run. They strolled over casually, chatting about doing it again when fewer people were around. Right there, in front of everyone, without a shred of shame. The Wu family guards acted like nothing had happened. Wu Changqing just tossed a handful of copper coins on the crying girl and told her to stop making noise and go home. Ma Wu spat blood and screamed at the sky. Demons! Since these monsters came, our village has become a living hell. Dashi's eyes turned red. He gripped his sword. Brother Chun, I want to kill again. I held his hand down on the hilt. I stood up slowly. I said nothing. I turned and walked back toward our village. What do we do? Su Jiang asked desperately. Everyone stared at me, expecting me to lead a charge. I promise all of you, tomorrow the water will flow again. For now, go home. They looked stunned. They'd expected a fight. They couldn't understand why I was walking away, but I knew exactly what I was doing. Su Jiang looked at my back, calmed himself down, and told everyone to follow me home. Behind us, the Wu family men burst into mocking laughter. Thought he was tough. Turns out he's a coward with no guts. Their insults cut deep. My people were grinding their teeth to dust, but I didn't turn around. Not once. I didn't give Wu Changqing a single glance. That confused him. He'd set the whole thing up as a trap. Fill our channel, force us to come, then ambush me with 40 armed men and cut me down in the chaos. When I just walked away, his plan fell apart. Back in the village, I finally turned to face everyone. I held up 3 fingers. 3 things. First, tomorrow the water flows again. Second, the Wu family will be destroyed. Third, I swear this on my life. Now go home and get back to work. I went inside and closed the door. The villagers stood in stunned silence. Destroyed? The entire Wu family? That was dozens of people, maybe over 100. But then they remembered those 7 Wu thugs who'd vanished without a trace weeks ago, and a chill ran through every one of them. The Wu family is finished, Su Jiang said quietly, and everyone heard it like thunder. That night, hoofbeats in the dark. 20 riders. 20 horses with cloth-wrapped hooves to muffle the sound. Black masks, full weapons, killing intent rolling off them like heat from a forge. Xiaobai had ridden to the stronghold that afternoon on my orders and brought back 20 of our best fighters. Qinshu stayed behind with a small crew to keep building. I waited at the village entrance with Dashi. When they arrived, I nodded once. Let's go? Kill the tyrants. Kill the tyrants. 20 voices answered in a low roar. Baisha village was only 7 or 8 li away. We were there in minutes. Deep night. Most of the village was dark, but the Wu family compound, a massive walled estate on the highest ground, still glowed with lamplight. I could hear children playing inside. I'd already gathered intelligence. The Wu clan had seized the best land in the village, driven out the original families by force, even killed 2 people who refused to leave. The county captain covered for them, so a small payment settled everything. They'd forced villagers to build them this fortress of a compound where the whole clan lived together. Usually, that kind of setup would be smart. Tonight, it meant I could take them all at once. I'd also learned what Wu Changqing was planning. He'd already arranged with his nephew Wu Chuang, the county captain, to arrest me on charges of making illegal salt the next time I went to town. They'd throw me in prison, torture my salt refining secret out of me, then move into our village and take everything. They were already talking about who'd get my wife. Wu Chuang had his eye on Qingwan. They were dividing up the village women like livestock. I pulled up my black mask, raised my hand, kicked my horse forward. The white stallion shot like an arrow toward the compound gate. Behind me, the Xiang fighters charged with fire in their blood, their first battle riding alongside me. Inside the compound, Wu Changqing was chewing pork and drinking wine, laughing about his plans. Then the table started shaking. Ripples spread across the wine in his bowl. Before he could figure out what was happening, the front gate exploded inward. My horse leaped through the wreckage. I already had an arrow drawn, and my eyes found Wu Changqing instantly. Wu Changqing, I called out. Who dares break into my... He never finished. I released the string. The arrow crossed the space between us in a flash, entered through his open mouth, punched out the back of his skull, and pinned him to the pillar behind him. The Wu men were drunk and slow. By the time they scrambled for their weapons, it was already over. 20 of us poured into the compound. No mercy. Every blade found flesh. Dashi shot one of those teenage monsters with his crossbow, the ringleader, the one who'd led the attack on that poor girl and her brother. He pinned the kid's head to a post. That's for the girl called Xinger, he snarled. Cheng Guang drove his sword through a man's chest. Lu Handong crushed another's shoulder with his iron staff. Xiaobai was the deadliest of all, 4 kills in rapid succession, shooting while moving at 30 paces, never missing. Nobody could match his speed except me. It was over fast. Almost all the fighting men were dead. Half of them fell to my arrows and Xiaobai's bolts alone. The survivors, old people, wounded men, women, and children, were herded into the courtyard. The bodies were dragged there too. Cheng Guang found the household register and called every name. When he finished the count, he reported 42 dead, 67 remaining. 2 men were away with Wu Chuang. Everyone else was accounted for, down to the babies in their cradles. I gave the order. All males 10 and older, kill them. Blades flashed. Blood sprayed. Screaming filled the night. When it was done, not a single male over 10 was left alive. We also found a fortune inside: silver, grain, 15 horses, 2 large carts. All of it went to the stronghold. Recover every arrow. Tie the remaining women and children to the upper floors. Let the people of Baisha village decide their fate. Move out. As we rode out, Chengguang called for the banner. Someone tossed a cloth scroll into the air. Xiaobai, already galloping past the gate, spun in his saddle without aiming and fired. The bolt punched through the wooden rod and nailed the banner to a pillar. The white cloth unrolled downward, revealing 2 blood-red characters: Xiang Stronghold. Nice shot. The men cheered. Getting better, I told Xiaobai with a nod. 40 paces, moving target, perfect accuracy. He was surpassing even Shinshu now. Still not good enough, Xiaobai said. My goal is 80 paces without a single miss. Then keep training. The whole raid took maybe 15 minutes. Every Wu male over 10, dead. After the main force pulled out, I stayed behind with Xiaobai, hidden in the shadows, watching what happened next. The village had woken during the killing. Nobody dared approach while it was happening. But afterward, people crept toward the compound one by one. Then more came. Eventually, even the beaten village chief Ma Wu shuffled over, clutching his chest. Chief Ma, the Wu family. They're all dead. A banner says it was Xiang's stronghold bandits. Ma Wu stared at Wu Changqing's body slumped against the pillar, eyes still open, and ground his teeth. Good. They deserved every bit of it. Then an old Wu woman tied up on the second floor started screaming orders. Ma Wu, get us down this instant. Send someone to the county to fetch my grandson Chuang. Hurry, you worthless peasants. Even now, hanging from a beam with their men lying in pieces below, these people still thought they could give orders. The other Wu women joined in, screeching and cursing the villagers. Should we let them down? Someone asked Ma Wu. Of course, he said with a cold smile. He walked over and yanked the rope slip knot. The old woman dropped from over a zhang up and hit the ground hard. Both her legs broke on impact. She screamed and cursed him. He stood over her, eyes blood red, and told her everything. How when he'd gone to war, her family had dragged his wife to their compound as a slave, worked her day and night without food. Their men violated her repeatedly. She could barely walk now. She could never bear children. His family line was finished because of this woman. He picked up a fallen sword and split her skull open. Revenge. At last, Ma Wu roared at his fellow villagers. What are you waiting for? The bandits from Xiang's stronghold did this, not us. Haven't these animals tormented you enough? If you have grudges, settle them now. He raised his sword and struck again. The villagers' eyes turned red. Every single one of them had suffered under the Wu family. Now, finally, they had their chance. They grabbed weapons from the ground and threw themselves at whoever was left. Old, young, it didn't matter anymore. The girl, Xinger, the one who'd been violated that afternoon, found a pair of scissors and stabbed the dead bodies of those teenage monsters over and over. The 10-year-old boy who'd used his hands to hurt her, she cut his throat, gouged out his eyes, and hacked off his hand. By the time the frenzy ended, not a single member of the Wu family was left breathing. Not even a whole body remained. That's how deep the hatred ran. Hiding in the darkness, Xiaobai was shaking. He'd been calm during our own killing, but watching this, ordinary people driven to absolute madness, that rattled him. Everyone carries a dark seed inside them, I told him quietly. It just depends on who waters it. The Wu family made these people into this. Before tonight, they were just ordinary, obedient, long-suffering folk. This is what happens when common people finally break. This is the fury of the masses. I turned and walked away into the deeper night. Chengguang and the others rode back to the stronghold. They had work to do, but I heard later that they stayed up half the night talking about the raid, about watching me fight up close. They said I turned killing into an art form. Every arrow, every sword stroke, precise and perfect. Fighting beside me had become the thing every man in the stronghold dreamed of. Xiaobai and I got home late. Qingwan had hot food waiting. Even 2 salt-cured birds roasting in the stove pit. After we ate, Xiaobai took a bag of iron arrowheads and went home to make more arrows. I poured cold well water over myself, scrubbed away 2 nights' worth of blood, changed into clean clothes, and sat down. Qingwan handed me a bowl of simple tea. I sipped it slowly, letting the faint bitterness wash the last of the killing from my mind. Aren't you going to ask what I did? I said, watching her spin thread. If you want to tell me, I'm listening. She smiled gently. I killed people. Last night, over 80. Tonight, close to 100. Half of tonight's count died because of what I set in motion. I'll claim those too. Her hand trembled for just a moment. Then it steadied. She nodded firmly. If you killed them, they deserved it. That confident in me, I picked up the tiger cub and sat beside her. Little Jean sniffed me, then rolled onto his back in my arms, belly up. Complete trust. Everything you do is right, she said simply. I told her about Black Wind's stronghold, and relief flooded her face. She'd been afraid of those bandits coming for revenge. Then I told her about the Wu family, what they'd done to the villagers, the girl, the little boy. They deserved to die. She nodded hard, eyes blazing. You're a true hero. She looked at me differently now. Not like the useless boy I'd been before. Like the man she'd once dreamed of in her girlhood fantasies. You're not bad yourself, I said, and meant it. She bit her lip and stopped spinning. Husband, I have a request. With Chinchu away and so much work, the salt, the firewood, managing everything with only little Chinny to help. Could I ask Sister Xiaoer to come work with me? I looked at Qingwan. Is that really all you're thinking? She started talking about how capable and honest Xiaoer was, then caught me watching her with a knowing smile. Her face went red, and she quickly changed course. Maybe just hire her to help with the accounts and collecting firewood? Approved, I said, and took the tiger cub to the Kong for training. She pumped her little fist in excitement. She thought she'd won a small victory. She was learning, slow and steady, not rushing things like before. The next morning, I doubled the training load but only added half an hour. Dashi and Xiaobai showed up early and pushed through it with me. By the end, they were flat on the ground, unable to move. I still had energy left to boil leopard bone soup and collect deer blood. They couldn't believe it. As the day got going, the women came to work and the men headed into the forest for firewood and straight branches, sour jujube, birch, good for making bows and arrow shafts. The villagers refused payment for these. We had enough stockpiled for hundreds of bows and thousands of arrows, all properly dried and cured. I sat inside reading, but my mind was working through problems. The coal mine was secured, but I needed to build a steel furnace, which meant finding kaolin clay for fire bricks. The markets didn't sell it. I knew places in the northeast that had deposits, but they were too far away right now. I also needed skilled builders to construct the furnace. On top of that, I had to organize the village carpenters to start making parts for spinning wheels, looms, crossbows, and arrows. Too many things to do, too few resources. The salt business alone could feed everyone, but it couldn't power the growth I needed across two bases. Then a shout came from outside. The water channel is flowing again. The village erupted in cheers. I walked out and looked down at the crowd dancing around the channel. I smiled to myself. Baisha village can be saved after all, a hoarse voice called from beyond my wall. Young Master Chun. It was Ma Wu, the one-armed village chief of Baisha village. I want to meet him. He led me into a nearby grove of trees, checked that we were alone, then dropped to his knees and wept. Thank you, young Master Chun. Why thank me? The kindness is as heavy as a mountain. What kindness? The kind that lives in the heart. I smiled. Clever man. He'd figured out it was me, but he knew better than to say it directly. Every Wu family member in the village is dead, he reported, straightening up. Down to the last one. Roots and all. Who killed them? The righteous bandits of Xiang's stronghold. No one else was involved. There's a blood banner at the scene as proof. Why come to me? Because you're a man of justice who cannot tolerate evil. And a man of your growing business must have wide connections. He'd known from the first moment it was my doing. Pure instinct. Enough, I said. I accept your gratitude. He broke down again. You saved? No. The Xiang people saved 307 lives. Without this, that hell would have gone on forever. The Wu family got what they deserved. Your suffering is over, but you must build wisely from here. I will remember your words. I helped him to his feet. Then he lowered his voice with a warning. Be careful. Wu Chuang. He's the county captain in Pingyang. He still has 2 unmarried Wu family men with him. He commands 200 militia troops. And there's worse. Wu Changqing once got drunk and let slip that Wu Chuang sometimes dresses his soldiers as bandits to rob wealthy families. Your business keeps growing, young Master Chen. Please be on your guard. I said nothing. I just listened. But I was already thinking about Wu Chuang and his 200 men and what would need to be done about them. Using bandits to justify his position, fattening his own pockets. The official is the bandit is the official. No heaven, no humanity, I muttered. A dangerous light flickered in my eyes. I thanked Ma Wu for the warning about Wu Chuang and asked about the water channel. He confirmed his villagers had reopened it overnight, their way of showing gratitude. Baisha and Mu'er village were neighbors, after all. I asked about his village's population. 307 people, 48 injured or disabled men, 50 teenagers, 120 women of working age, 40 children, and 49 elderly. So few able-bodied men. No wonder the Wu family had been able to terrorize them. I need workers, I told him. Send 10 women each day, 20 copper coins per person, 1 meal included. As business grows, I'll hire more. He was overjoyed. Then I asked if his village had any carpenters or blacksmiths. A few rough woodworkers, but no blacksmiths. I was disappointed. I desperately needed skilled craftsmen. Ma Wu sensed my letdown and rushed to defend his village's honor. We may not have smiths, but we're the best bricklayers and builders around. There's a saying in Pingyang County, Mu'er village for woodwork, Baisha for houses, Wangyao for pottery. Each village has its specialty. The moment he said, Wangyao village and pottery, something clicked in my head like a thunderbolt. Pottery requires kaolin clay. Kaolin clay makes fire bricks. Fire bricks build steel furnaces. And potters who can build kilns can learn to build blast furnaces with the right guidance. Wangyao village was only 20-some li away. The answer to my biggest problem had been right under my nose this whole time. Ma Wu saw my face brighten and started boasting about his village's construction skills, offering to rebuild my house for free. No, I stopped him. That's not what we need right now. We need to prepare defenses. He didn't understand at first. So I laid it out plainly. Wu Chuang, the county captain, half official, half bandit, had just lost his entire family. Even though we'd pinned everything on Xiang's stronghold, that might fool the courts, but not Wu Chuang himself. He was vicious and unpredictable. He could easily disguise his militia as bandits and attack both our villages for revenge and plunder. The color drained from Ma Wu's face. Sweat beaded on his forehead as it sank in. We need to prepare now, I said. This concerns 600 or 700 lives across both villages. Get Su Jiang. The three of us will plan together. He nodded hard and hurried off. Back home, I was thinking through next steps when I glanced up and saw Su Xiu'er standing at the doorway, handling the firewood collection in Qinshu's absence. She was keeping clean records, counting payments, working efficiently. Then she turned and caught me looking at her. Her cheeks flushed, and she suddenly didn't know what to do with her hands. I felt a small jolt. The old Li Chun had drooled over this girl endlessly and never gotten anywhere. Now the tables had turned somewhat. I walked over. Xiu'er, thank you for helping. You'll be paid properly, don't worry. Up close, I understood why she was called the most beautiful woman across all 3 villages along the Jade Dragon River. Even in rough homespun clothes, her figure was impossible to hide. Graceful curves, a waist you could circle with one hand, long legs, all without a touch of makeup, yet stunning as a peach blossom. Under my gaze, she grew even more flustered, fumbling with the records until she hardly knew what she was doing anymore. I'm not doing this for the money, Xiu'er said, her face burning red. We'd grown up in the same village, even shared blankets as children. But now she couldn't even look at me. Her heart was pounding so loud I could practically hear it. I just smiled and said nothing. Then she gathered her courage and started speaking in a tiny, shaky voice. I've liked you for a long time. I want to marry into your family. My parents used to say you were no good, but now you've changed. Do you? Still like me? I don't eat much, and I promise I'll get along with Wanner. I'd never bully her. Xiu'er, you like sister-in-law? Oh my, a woman's voice cut in from behind. Xiu'er looked up and nearly died of embarrassment. It was Ma Lian, who'd just been dropping off wild fruits. She'd heard Xiu'er talking, but missed the context entirely. The poor girl covered her face with both hands, mortified. I came walking over from the workshop just in time to witness the whole scene. Shortly after, Su Jiang returned with Ma Wu. Their faces were grim. We got straight to business. I heard what Ma Wu told you, Su Jiang said. Your concerns make sense. Then let's not waste time talking, I said. Ma Wu, has Wu Chuang come back yet? We sent word to the city, but he hasn't returned. Just then, thunder-like hoofbeats shook the ground. A dozen riders galloped past Muir village heading toward Baisha. Ma Wu's face went white. That might be Wu Chuang. Go back now, I told him. Take the shortcut. Act normal. Watch what he does. Come back after he leaves. Ma Wu rode off at full speed. Su Jiang asked if Wu Chuang would really attack our village too. I told him, if everything Ma Wu said about Wu Chuang was true, then yes, absolutely. The man was no ordinary official. He was a demon wearing a government badge. We waited all afternoon. No sign of Wu Chuang leaving. No sign of Ma Wu returning. Something was wrong. I was about to ride to Baisha village when hoofbeats erupted again. A dozen horses came tearing back along the road. The lead rider stopped at our village entrance and looked up the hill, straight at my house. I stood in the yard, staring right back. Even at that distance, I knew it was Wu Chuang. He studied my home for a long moment. Then he kicked his horse and rode off. I watched the dust trail disappear, my eyes hardening. Was that Wu Chuang? Su Jiang asked quietly beside me. Yes, I thought for a moment. Then the answer hit me like lightning. Uncle Su, they're going to massacre the village and rob everything. Baisha village is in danger, and we'll be caught in it too. Tonight, let's go check on Baisha first. Dashi and Xiaobai already had the horses ready. We galloped to Baisha village. Before we even reached the edge, we could hear crying and cursing. Inside, people sat bleeding in their doorways, moaning. Ma Wu limped toward us, supported by his wife. His face was swollen, his clothes torn and blood-stained, whip marks across his neck. Wu Chuang gathered the whole village and interrogated everyone, he explained bitterly. When nobody talked, he went berserk and had his men beat everyone half to death. He didn't dare kill openly. His official position stopped him. But barely. Ma Wu, I said, my voice heavy. Your village faces disaster tonight. What? But it was Xiang's stronghold that killed his family. It has nothing to do with us. And he already beat us today. From a normal person's logic, you'd be right. But Wu Chuang isn't a person. He's a monster. Su Jiang asked why I was so certain it would be tonight. When a whole family of dozens gets wiped out, the provincial government will hear about it. I explained to Su Jiang and Ma Wu. Normally they'd send real soldiers to hunt down Xiang's stronghold. But first they'd investigate, and they'd find out the Wu family deserved what they got. During wartime, with the northern Goose Pass under pressure, they won't waste troops on something like that. So Wu Chuang needs to make the situation bigger. He needs more dead villagers, a lot more, to force the province's hand. He'll have his militia disguise themselves as bandits and slaughter both Baisha and Muir village. 2 entire villages wiped out? The province will have to send troops. And while he's at it, he gets revenge, robs us blind, and maybe captures me for my salt formula. Su Jiang's eyes went wide as the logic clicked. And it has to be tonight, before anything changes. Ma Wu's face was white. What do we do? Move everyone from Baisha village to Muir village. Now. 1 hour. Go. Ma Wu was efficient. Within the hour, all 307 Baisha villagers arrived at our doorstep carrying everything they owned. I gathered the village elders from both communities in my house. The mood was grim. I'd considered sending Xiaobai to fetch the Xiang stronghold fighters, but I ruled it out. Too conspicuous if they appeared again so soon. They were exhausted from 2 back-to-back battles. And most critically, there wasn't enough time. Wu Chuang had left in late afternoon. By the time anyone reached the stronghold and rode back, it would be too late. This fight, I'd lead with 600 villagers. Just ordinary people against trained militia. 3 things, I said. First, evacuate all elderly, women, and children into the mountains. We fight with clear minds. Second, every male between 15 and 50, line up now. I need to see what we're working with. Plus 30 strong women volunteers. Third, the battle plan. Wu Chuang has 300 militia, but he won't bring them all. He needs secrecy. 100 men is his limit. He'll split into 2 groups, one hitting Baisha village, one coming straight for Muir village. For us. So we concentrate our force and destroy them one group at a time. I laid out the tactical details. Then the sun dropped behind the mountains and darkness swallowed everything. The village went silent. Not even a dog barking or a rooster crowing. Then, faint vibrations through the ground. Muffled hoofbeats, horses with cloth-wrapped hooves. About 40 cavalry entered the gorge, followed by 60-some men on foot. all radiating killing intent, eyes glinting cold in the darkness. At the fork, they split exactly as I'd predicted. The cavalry veered toward Baisha village. The 60-odd foot soldiers came straight for Muir village, but they didn't stop in the village. They marched right through, heading up the cliff path to my home. 20 or so climbed to the ledge where my house stood. Nearly 40 more stayed below to guard the perimeter. Up on the cliff, my lamp was still burning. Through the window, those creeping killers could see a handsome young scholar sitting calmly by the light, reading a book, seemingly unaware that death was closing in. That scholar was me, and I knew exactly where every one of them was standing. 20-some attackers crouched behind my courtyard wall, blades gleaming in the moonlight. "Is that him?" one whispered. "That's him," their leader answered, a man they called Captain Wu, one of the 2 surviving Wu family men. "Grab him alive. He's got a pretty little wife, too. Take the people, take the goods, then we slaughter the village. Catching one bookworm? Easy. Take extra men anyway. Be quick." A dozen of them climbed over the wall and crept to my window. They peeked inside and saw me reading by lamplight, tapping my hand to the rhythm of poetry. I recited aloud, "Slay 100 bandit soldiers, the blades still wet with blood. The fools don't know the hero's face, they only ask his name." Then I turned and smiled at the window. "Gentlemen, aren't you going to ask my name?" They froze. "Spotted. Who cares what your name is?" "Tie him up," the squad leader barked, jumping to his feet. "Let me tell you anyway. My name is Li Chun." I pulled a rope in my hand. The ground exploded beneath them. Every inch of my courtyard had been hollowed out and covered with hinged boards. One pull, and every last man dropped into a pit nearly a zhang deep, filled with sharpened wooden stakes. Not one survived. They were skewered like candied fruit on sticks. "Never gets old," I murmured, standing up. "Pit traps always work." I slung on my bow and quiver, took my crossbow in my left hand, drew my sword with my right, and walked out along the narrow ridge of undug earth I'd left as a path. Below me, the pit was a river of blood and dying screams. I didn't look down. "Welcome, guests. Come out, and let's meet properly," I called into the darkness. Captain Wu had a dozen men left outside. He screamed at them to rush me. I planted my sword in the ground, raised the crossbow, and fired. The bolt punched clean through the first man and kept going into the one behind him. Both dropped into the pit. I threw down the crossbow and charged with my blade. The third man blocked. His sword snapped in two, and my blade split his skull down the middle. I kicked him into the pit and kept moving. Stabbed the fourth through the gut. Spun and slashed the fifth diagonally in half. I kept going. In the cold night air, my blade moved like snow, and I moved like a tiger. 8 men down in moments, including the 2 from the crossbow. The last 4 stumbled backward in terror, clustering around Captain Wu. I'd cut through them like they were nothing. "State your name," I said, resting on my sword. Captain Wu wouldn't give it. He growled through clenched teeth, "You can't escape, Li Chun. We still have 40 or 50 men below. Let's see how many you can kill." "Oh? You mean those men?" I pointed casually at the troops scrambling up the cliff path toward us. Before he could respond, his eyes went wide. "Look out." Too late. Up on the cliff top above, boulders began crashing down, one after another, an avalanche of stone that Dashi and the others had prepared. The thundering rocks crushed at least 20 men into paste. The survivors, maybe 20 more, pressed themselves flat against the cliff face, shaking, too terrified to move. Then from below came a roar. "Die, you bastards!" 60 or 70 village men burst out of hiding, swinging spears, clubs, and shovels, charging up the mountain. "Get up here. Regroup with us," Captain Wu screamed at his surviving men below. They scrambled up and joined him. About 25 men total now, with angry villagers closing in from below. I just stood there watching, sword planted, not moving, almost amused. Captain Wu made his decision. He pointed his blade at me. "Take him. Use him as a hostage. Those farmers won't dare touch us if we have him." His remaining men howled and charged straight at me. I didn't bother fighting them head on. I just stepped back onto the narrow earth ridge over the pit and drew my bow. One arrow. The man in front toppled straight into the stakes below. "He's got a bow?" "And a crossbow." The rest panicked. Nobody dared cross that thin strip of ground toward me. I picked up my crossbow, loaded it casually, and aimed. They all hit the dirt in terror. Pathetic. Killing you would just dirty my hands. I lowered the crossbow. Not even worth the bolt. Run. Into the mountains. Captain Wu leaped up and sprinted for the tree line. My arrow caught him in the gut, sinking half a foot deep. He crumpled to the ground. From the shadows ahead, a voice called out, "This road is closed." Xiaobai stepped into the moonlight with his crossbow raised. Dashi stood beside him, sword gleaming. Behind them, 40 or 50 villagers carrying every tool and weapon they could find, rage burning in their eyes. "Kill!" Dashi roared and charged. Over 100 furious village men closed in from both sides. Xiaobai and I picked off anyone who tried to break through. Captain Wu was already down. They were shattered. They resisted for barely half a stick of incense before the last 15 dropped to their knees and surrendered. The villagers beat them bloody anyway and tied them up. Our casualties: one man who twisted his ankle charging too hard. That was it. 0 again. Ma Wu walked over dragging a blood-dripping saber, having personally cut down 3 of the attackers with just one arm. He gave me a thumbs up. "You predicted everything. You turned a bunch of rough farmers into an army and wiped them out. Incredible. Save the praise," I said. "There are still 40-some cavalry unaccounted for. Those are the real threat." The cavalry had ridden to Baisha village expecting easy slaughter. Instead, they found an empty ghost town. Not a single person. Just a few horse traps that sent riders tumbling and cursing. "Where the hell did everyone go?" their leader snarled. The younger Wu brother, the other Captain Wu. Finding nothing to kill, he turned his men around and headed for Muir village to help with the massacre there. But they'd wasted nearly an hour riding back and forth and dealing with the horse traps. Our battle was long finished, and we'd already set the next trap. As the cavalry thundered along the road near a stretch of forest, someone with sharp eyes spotted something. "What's that hanging in the trees?" "There's a lot of them." The younger Captain Wu ordered men to investigate. They came running back, faces white. "It's your brother. He's dead." "All our men. They're hanging from the trees, stripped naked." He screamed in rage and ran toward the grove. Since their leader dismounted, everyone else did too. They left just 2 men with the horses and rushed in. Captain Wu found his brother's naked body dangling from a branch, swaying in the wind, covered in blood. All the other dead men hung the same way around him. "Cut them down," he howled, blind with grief and fury, his judgment completely gone. His men started untying the ropes. The moment the bodies dropped, they triggered the trap. From every direction, massive logs, each 1-2 feet thick, a full zhang long, 300 or 400 jin heavy, came swinging through the air like enormous pendulums. Dozens of them hung from the treetops on simple mechanical releases, all connected to those same ropes. The impact was beyond description. Anyone caught by a single log was sent flying or crushed flat. The unlucky ones caught between 2 logs at once were ground into paste. Not even pancakes, more like jelly that you'd need a shovel to scrape up. The second battle was even easier. It was practically over before it started. Cavalry is the deadliest force on any battlefield, as long as they stay mounted. The moment they dismount, they're finished. The younger Captain Wu made exactly that fatal mistake. Blinded by rage over his brother's body, he ordered everyone off their horses and into the trap. The swinging logs did the rest. When the logs finally stopped, only 12 or 13 men were still alive. The ones at the back who'd been quick enough to dive flat and crawl out of range. The younger Captain Wu himself was the unluckiest. 2 logs caught him between them. All that was left could be scraped off the wood with a shovel. The survivors scrambled toward their horses, some vomiting as they ran. But when they got close, torches flared to life on 3 sides. Over 100 villagers stood waiting with weapons drawn, staring them down. "Don't kill us. We surrender." They threw down their swords and dropped to their knees, shaking like leaves. "Pathetic," Dashi spat. He'd been pumping himself up for a real fight, and both battles had ended before he got his fill. Ma Wu with one arm had killed more men than him tonight. "These militia are supposed to be trained soldiers?" Dashi complained. "They're worse than bandits. With tactics like Brother Chen's, it wouldn't matter if real soldiers came," Xiaobai said. "He could do the same thing to the northern barbarians." Ma Wu stared at me, struggling to swallow. Pit traps, boulders, corpse bait ambushes, pendulum logs. This was a small-scale military campaign. I saw generals try things like this in the army, but none of them came close to how smoothly you pulled it off. "What did you learn tonight?" I asked Dashi as I inspected the captured horses. "Digging pits. rolling boulders, hanging bodies, swinging logs, he shouted proudly. Xiaobai glared at him. That's not what he's asking. Go ahead, I told Xiaobai. Never underestimate the enemy. The easier something seems, the more careful you should be. And when the enemy tries to make you angry, that's exactly when you stay calm. Good. Mount up. Drag those bodies back. Dashi sidled up to Xiaobai afterward, pouting. Stop showing off in front of Brother Chen. You're making me look bad, then start using your brain. Are you calling me stupid? See? You're getting smarter already. The final numbers, 106 attackers came. 76 dead. 30 survivors. 10 badly wounded. 20 who surrendered early enough to stay in one piece. Both Wu captains were dead. The elder one took an arrow and a club to the skull. The younger one was paced between two logs. Our side, not a single death. 3 injuries. One man sprained his wrist prying loose a boulder, another knocked out his own front teeth swinging a club, and the same poor fellow from the first fight who'd twisted his ankle charging. Everyone laughed at him again. 0 casualties against 106 armed men. Ma Wu, who'd served 3 years in the military, couldn't stop shaking his head. Zhou Dehai clapped his shoulder and grinned. Brother Chen isn't just a god on the battlefield. He's a god off it too. Stick with him and you'll see things that'll make your jaw hit the floor. As for the loot, it was substantial. 46 horses with official military brands, all excellent quality. Combined with the horses from Blackwind Stronghold, Xiang Stronghold, and the Wu family estate, we'd passed 100 horses. That was a small cavalry force, enough to shift the balance of a local battle. We found over 150 swords and sabers on the bodies. No bows, unfortunately. They hadn't bothered bringing any against mere villagers. Nearly 500 taels of silver in their pockets too. Add that to the 20,000 taels we'd already taken from the Wu compound, and we were sitting on serious wealth. What do we do with the prisoners? Su Jiang asked. Tie them tight, load them on carts. Xiaobai and Dashi take them to the stronghold tonight. They dig coal. From now on, every bandit and criminal we captured would work the mines as slave labor. I felt 0 sympathy for these men, and I'd made a new rule for myself. Don't kill prisoners if you can use them. Save money, save effort, save manpower. Just costs a few extra gene of grain. The evacuated villagers all came back down from the mountains. Under the torchlight, Ma Wu led every person from Baisha village, all 307 of them, to kneel before me, weeping. You saved us all. We don't know how to repay this. I helped Ma Wu up. We're neighbors. One family. No need for talk like that. They wanted to build me a shrine. I told them no. I was too young for that kind of thing. More likely to shorten my life than bless it. Then I got serious. Tonight taught me something. It's famine times. There's a war going on up north, and nobody knows when it might reach us. We need proper defenses. If we'd been better prepared tonight, even a large bandit army couldn't touch us. Just tell us what to do, Ma Wu said. Everyone agreed. We burned the dead to prevent disease. The prisoners went to the coal mines. By dawn, Dashi and Xiaobai had made the round trip to the stronghold, bringing back cartloads of coal and taking the captured horses and 20,000 gene of grain with them. From the Wu family estate alone, we'd seized 2 yuan taels of silver and 30,000 gene of hoarded grain, years of squeezing the countryside. The next day, I opened 10 worker spots for Baisha women. 20 copper coins a day, 1 meal. Less than Muir village's rate, but they were grateful just to have the chance. I gathered Ma Wu and Su Jiang to discuss the most urgent matter. We need to build a fortified gate at the gorge entrance, I said. That narrow pass is the only way in. Once we seal it properly, nearly 1,000 people across 3 villages, Muir, Baisha, and Wangyao behind us, will be safe. Without it, one raid could destroy everything. We've thought about it before, Ma Wu sighed. But mud walls fall apart. Real brick walls need fired bricks, and we can't afford the labor for that. We won't use traditional green bricks, I said. We'll make red bricks. Simpler, faster, cheaper, just as strong. Build the kiln and the wall at the same time, 1 month tops. We could even rebuild all our houses afterward. Red bricks? They'd never heard of such a thing. I told them I'd learned the method from traveling merchants in town and pulled out a sheet of paper with the process written down. Su Jiang snatched it before anyone else could look, clutching it to his chest like treasure. Who are you hiding it from? Everyone here is family, Ma Wu protested. This stays between a few people only. If this recipe gets out and ruins things, I'm holding you responsible, Su Jiang snapped back. I let them argue. Their hearts were in the right place. Organize every able man to build the kiln and start firing bricks, I said. I'll provide the food during construction. Both of them refused that immediately. This protects everyone, not just you. We're not eating your food for free anymore. We'll bring our own. Then I raised the real point I'd been building toward. There's a third village behind us in the mountains, Wangyao. They share this same gorge entrance. We should bring them into the plan. They need to contribute too. Everyone agreed. But in my mind, I was thinking far beyond a shared wall. Wangyao village made pottery. Pottery meant kale and clay. Kale and clay meant fire bricks. Fire bricks meant a steel furnace. And potters who could build kilns could learn to build blast furnaces. Wangyao village, I thought to myself. Don't let me down. I rode to Wangyao village with Su Jiang to discuss the gorge fortification. It was about 30 li away, with a huge stretch of flat land between the three villages. Over 1,000 hectares of rich black soil, all planted with wheat and other crops, green and healthy looking. From a military standpoint, this place was a natural fortress. Mountains on three sides, a river on one, and a single narrow gorge as the only land entrance. Seal that gorge with a proper wall, and no army could get in unless they marched through mountains with all their supplies. Practically impossible. The farmland could feed 5,000 soldiers and 3,000 civilians for a year, and with better crops and tools, even more. Old Heaven had given me the perfect base. I just needed to build it. Su Jiang was still fretting about sharing the red brick recipe with Baisha village. I told him not to worry. We'd save their lives, and besides, the secret couldn't stay hidden when hundreds of people would be making bricks anyway. Better to share openly and earn deeper loyalty. If you don't succeed with a heart like that, he said, giving me a thumbs up, there's no justice in heaven. When we arrived at Wangyao village, the first thing I noticed was several pottery kilns standing tall. My heart lifted. If they could build kilns for porcelain, which requires extreme heat and airtight seals, then with my guidance and the right firebrick material, building a steel furnace would be easy. The village chief, Wang Shou, welcomed us warmly. Su Jiang introduced me as a hunter. Wang Shou's eyes lit up immediately. Actually, he said, barely able to contain himself, since you're a hunter, I have a favor to ask. This was perfect. I'd been wondering how to bring up the steel furnace, and now he needed something from me first. He explained that chickens, sheep, and dogs had been disappearing from the village. 2 days ago, 2 small children vanished while playing near the mountain. No bodies, no trace. The whole village was terrified. Everyone locked their doors at nightfall. All their hunters had been drafted into the army, so they had nobody who could track whatever beast was taking people. Of course I'll help, I said without hesitation. He led us to the edge of the village where the children had last been seen, an open valley between 2 mountains. The moment I stepped forward, I caught a faint smell in the air. Something rank and fishy. I searched the area where the children had played. Nothing obvious at first. Then I widened my search and found it. In a patch of tall grass, a semicircular trail had been pressed flat. Not by human feet. The grass was springing back, almost hiding it, but I could tell the difference. The trail wound uphill into the mountain, and the fishy smell grew stronger. I followed it 100 paces up and lost the track behind some bushes. But there in the undergrowth, I found 2 scales, each one half the size of my palm. Python. I examined them carefully. No doubt about it. A massive one. What did you find? Wang Shou called from below. I walked back and showed them the scales in my open palm. A snake? Wang Shou's eyes went wide. No snake gets big enough to eat children, Su Jiang said doubtfully. This is a python. Over 300 gene. It could swallow a child, a sheep, even a small adult without any trouble. Wang Shou went pale. Then he grabbed my hand, eyes desperate. You're a hunter. You must know how to kill something like this. Please save our village. If this thing keeps eating people, we can't stay here. I'm begging you. Didn't listen to warnings, and no brains either. I muttered, watching the chaos unfold. Behind the fleeing villagers, heavy hoofbeats thundered like drums, punctuated by screams. I pulled the cover off my crossbow, loaded a bolt, and raised it. Perfect chance to test this weapon's power. The villagers scattered in every direction as trees snapped and crashed behind them. Then the beast burst into the open. A massive wild boar, enormous tusks gleaming, body coated in thick layers of hardened pine resin. This was the armored boar I'd been hearing about. Its tiny eyes were blood red with rage. Directly ahead of it, a skinny boy was sprinting for his life. The boar was closing fast, head lowered, ready to gore him and toss him into the air. "Xiaobai, get down," I roared. I recognized him. Ho Xiaobai, my childhood friend. He heard me and threw himself flat on the ground, exposing the boar's massive head behind him. I emptied my mind. Everything went still. The boar, 100 paces out, seemed to zoom right up to my face. My fingers squeezed the trigger. A dull thump, and the three-edged bolt crossed the distance in a flash. It punched through the boar's forehead and sank halfway in. The beast let out a deafening shriek, veered sideways, plowed a trench in the earth, and collapsed. I reloaded immediately and approached in combat stance, keeping my crossbow trained on it. "Xiaobai, you okay?" I'm fine," he said, sitting up shaking like a leaf. Dashi ran over to help him. "Stay back. It might not be dead," I warned. But then Zhou Dahai, a stocky man with a limp, rushed out from the side with a hunting fork, cursing, trying to finish it off. The boar erupted back to life with a terrible scream. In an instant its tusks were pressed against his chest, one twitch away from punching through him. He closed his eyes, waiting to die. I fired again. The bolt entered through the boar's right eye and exited the other side. The beast went limp for good. Zhou Dahai opened his eyes and stared at the arrow through the boar's skull, then looked at me standing there with my crossbow. He couldn't believe it. 180 paces. One shot through the forehead, one through the eye. The villagers whispered as they gathered around. They were calling me an arrow god, the rarest class of marksman, 1 in 10,000. Zhou Dahai dropped to his knees to thank me. I caught him before he hit the ground. We're all from the same village. Helping each other is what we do. Su Jiang took charge, telling people to treat the wounded and haul the boar back. Then he made an announcement. "This boar is Li Chen's kill. It belongs to him. Anyone disagree?" "Of course not. He saved our lives. Who dare claim his kill? Anyone who tries isn't a real man." The villagers were unanimous. "Wait," I said. "I disagree." Everyone froze, staring at me in confusion. "What do you mean?" Su Jiang asked. "Everyone helped chase this boar," I said. "I just happened to be in the right place at the right time. The credit belongs to the whole village, so the boar belongs to the whole village." "That's nonsense," Su Jiang shot back. "What do you mean, right place, right time?" We all saw those two shots, 180 paces, one through the forehead, one through the eye. Meanwhile, we were the idiots who thought catching 2 piglets was good luck and ended up luring the mother. You could have handled this alone. The boar is yours, and if you keep refusing, you're insulting every man here. The other villagers backed him up loudly. Nobody would let me give it away. "Fine," I said. "If it's mine, then I get to decide what happens to it, right?" "Of course." "Then carry it down and divide it among every household." Stunned silence. "That boar would fetch 40 or 50 strings of cash at market." Su Jiang tried to argue, but I cut him off. "My mind's made up. You handle the distribution. I only want the bones. I have a use for them." He looked at me for a long moment, then nodded hard. He turned to the crowd and gave a speech about how long it had been since anyone had eaten meat, about the 2 years of drought and famine, and how I was giving away a fortune in pork but only keeping bones. "If any man here ever disrespects Li Chun again, I'll deal with him personally." Zhou Dahai, the man I'd just saved from the boar's tusks, spoke first. "Anyone who looks down on Brother Chun isn't human." Everyone roared in agreement. The looks they gave me had changed completely. No more contempt, only respect and gratitude. I quietly noted something important. These were good people. Honest, grateful, worth building something with. Then I remembered a practical matter. "Uncle Su, I'm turning 20 soon. The army is drafting men for Northern Goose Pass. I'd rather not get sent to the front lines as cannon fodder. So if anyone asks about the boar, just say I got lucky with a blind shot." He laughed and clapped my shoulder. "Don't worry. Everyone here will protect your secret." "Absolutely," the men chimed in, grinning. "We saw the whole thing. Brother Chin just fired randomly and got lucky." I thanked them, collected my arrows from the boar, and headed up the mountain to continue hunting. Down below, the women were waiting. When they saw the men carrying that massive boar down the hill, easily over 500 jin, they screamed with excitement. "Meet tonight," Zhou Jiao shouted, licking her lips. But then came the family drama. Zhou Jiao's mother, Wang Kaifeng, spotted her injured husband Zhou Dahai and immediately started complaining that I had beaten their daughter with a switch earlier. She wanted him to come beat me up in revenge. Su Xiaoer spoke up quietly from the side, explaining what really happened. Zhou Jiao had deliberately cut up a dress I'd bought for my wife and refused to apologize, so I'd punished her. Zhou Dahai's face darkened. Daughter, is this true? Zhou Jiao clung to his arm, whining. He still hit me. Go beat him up. The slap came so fast nobody saw it coming. Zhou Jiao hit the ground. Are you insane? Wang Kaifeng shrieked, grabbing her husband. Spoiling her made her rotten. Zhou Dahai shoved his wife aside, grabbed a branch, and started whipping his daughter. You did that low-down thing and want me to fight Brother Chen? He just saved my life. He killed that boar and saved every one of us. The sounds of crying and cursing echoed all the way down the mountain path. Qingwan woke up beside me, half asleep. Do you need the chamber pot? Enemy attack. Take the tiger cub, get in the cellar, lock the hatch. Don't come out until I call for you. Her eyes went wide with fear, but she moved fast. I grabbed my hunting bow, short blade, quiver, and crossbow, then slipped out the courtyard gate and hid in the tall grass 30 paces away. Down the mountainside, a group of men had dismounted. One horse carried a girl in pink, tied down. All of them wore black masks, eyes glinting with menace. Second chief, the one called Li Chun, lives up on that ridge, a thin man said. I've confirmed it. He almost certainly killed Brother Guang and the others. Guang's brother disappeared near his door. Guang went to the county town looking for information and ran into this kid. They went to town at the same time, but only Li Chun came back. Zhang Guang and 3 men got killed by some farmer. The second chief sneered. I'll crush him like an ant. Leave 1 man to watch the girl. Everyone else, follow me. 8 of them crept up the mountain with drawn swords, blades flashing silver in the moonlight. My night vision from my past life was still sharp, even enhanced. In the faint moonlight, I could see everything within 60 paces as clearly as daylight. They reached my courtyard. The back was a sheer cliff, so they could only approach from the front. 5 went over the side walls. 3 came through the gate. The mother dog inside started barking. Damn, a dog! Move faster, the leader hissed. I counted silently. 3, 2, 1. 3 screams erupted simultaneously. The ones who jumped over the walls had fallen into my pit traps and were skewered on sharpened stakes. I rose instantly and fired 3 arrows in rapid succession from my hunting bow. All 3 hit. The men at the gate collapsed screaming. My arms burned slightly. 3 full draws in a row was still taxing, though I could manage 6 now. I needed to save some strength. I grabbed my crossbow and charged forward. One survivor was scrambling back over the wall. My dog was clamped onto his trouser leg, slowing him down. He made it over, but I was already 10 paces in front of him. One crossbow bolt pinned his thigh to the wall. He slid down and landed throat first on his own fallen sword. Dead. I'd wanted to keep him alive for questioning. Bad luck. I checked the yard. The 3 in the pits were impaled and finished. 3 outside had arrows through their hearts. The last one had panicked and run into my house, where the tripwire crossbow I'd set up put a bolt through his chest. 8 men. 8 dead. Not a single one left to interrogate. Frustrating. If I'd held back a little, I'd have someone to question. But I was fairly certain these were Black Wind Stronghold bandits come for revenge. Then I remembered. I'd heard a horse whinny earlier. They must have left someone below with the mounts. I covered my face with cloth, took my weapons, and slipped into the darkness. Half a quarter hour later, I reached a grove near the village edge. 5 horses stood there. My eyes lit up. Horses were priceless in this era. The Empire was desperate for them, even opening civilian breeding programs that never produced enough. And now bandits were delivering 5 right to my door. On one horse, the pink-clad girl was still tied down. Strangely, I saw no one guarding the horses or the captive. That didn't feel right. I waited and watched from the grass for a while longer, but no bandit appeared. I decided to stop waiting and move in. I rose from the grass, crossbow ready, and approached carefully. The girl tied to the horse was young and beautiful, gagged and bound tight, kicking her legs in panic. I'm not an enemy. I was passing by. I can save you, but stay quiet. Tell me what happened. Are there more men nearby? The moment I cut her gag, she screamed. Over there. Watch out. I spun and fired. 3 meters away, a bandit with a raised sword toppled forward. He was holding his pants up with one hand. He'd been relieving himself in the trees when I arrived and hadn't had time to even pull them up before trying to sneak over and kill me. That's why I hadn't sensed him earlier. Pure bad luck. The bolt punched clean through him and embedded in a tree behind, still vibrating. Another dead man. Another lost chance for answers. I cut the girl free. Something about her face felt familiar, though I was sure we'd never met. Thank you for saving me. My name is Zhang Yuer, she said with a graceful bow. She'd hesitated on her own name. Her eyes were too sharp, too calculating. She was lying. Where do you live? Originally from the capital. We moved outside the pass because of the war. Currently in Pingyang County. Smooth answer. Too smooth. Rehearsed, not natural. In my past life, I'd interrogated enough people to know the difference between genuine and scripted responses. Who kidnapped you? Why? I don't know. I'd had enough. Then goodbye. I turned to take the horses. Wait. It's the middle of the night. I'm a woman alone. I can't go back to the city by myself. Please escort me. I'll reward you. I swear on my life. No thanks. I was already mounting up. She hiked up her skirt and chased after me, tripped, and face-planted into the grass. She sat up spitting out leaves and grass bits. I couldn't help it. I pulled up the reins and looked back. It was actually pretty funny. She stood up, wiped her mouth, and glared at me. You are the most selfish, rude, ungrateful man I have ever met. Me? Yes, you. I'm a helpless woman in the dead of night begging for an escort, and you refuse. You walk off without a backward glance. You don't even help me up when I fall. That's rude and heartless. Ta! She spat out another grass leaf. Hard to tell if she was spitting at the grass or at me. I saved your life. Why won't you tell me the truth? You show up in the middle of the night wearing a mask. How do I know you're not one of the bandits? Maybe this is all a trick. Maybe you're even worse than them. Can you blame me for being cautious? She stood there with her hands on her hips, looking both furious and wronged, her mouth going a mile a minute. But her eyes never left me, studying my every move. I could practically hear her thinking. She was sizing me up, tall, strong, clearly capable, radiating what she apparently decided was righteous energy. And I could tell the exact moment her thoughts shifted from self-preservation to something else entirely. Her gaze softened and her cheeks colored slightly. I pinched the bridge of my nose. I'd killed 9 men tonight, and now I was stuck with this chatterbox. Fine. Better to take her back to the city than let her follow me home and figure out who I was. I dismounted, tied the other horses to a tree, and led one over. Get on. I'll take you back. Really? Her face lit up like sunrise. She tried to mount the horse and failed spectacularly. 3 attempts, couldn't get up. I put my hand on her lower back and lifted her into the saddle. The instant my palm touched her waist, her face turned crimson and she went completely still. I climbed up and we rode toward the city. Listen carefully. I don't want anyone knowing my face or where I'm from. If anyone asks, here's what happened. The bandits ran into trouble on the road, scattered in the chaos, and you escaped on your own. Then you happened to meet a passing stranger, me. Understood? That evening, I drank some wine with the others. In my previous life, I was the king of drinks. 1,000 cups couldn't get me drunk. This body seems even stronger. The alcohol dissolves the instant it hits my stomach, evaporating through my pores like mist. Getting drunk in this life might be truly impossible. After dinner, I worked with Xiao Bai and the others assembling the crossbows we'd been building. For total, 1 each. Powerful pulley crossbows, every one of them. I told the 3 of them everything. Black Wind Stronghold, the bandits, my plan. 4 of us against nearly 100 men. I asked if they were scared. Not scared, Dashi shouted, hoisting a 100-gene stone lock overhead. His arms were trembling. Then why are you shaking? You're obviously terrified, Xiaobai mocked, then casually loaded his crossbow and put a bolt dead center through a coin-sized target across the room. His aim gets sharper every day. That's excitement, Dashi protested, eyes bulging. Chinshu had been thinking quietly. Brother Chun, how do you want to fight this? Tell me your ideas first, I said. I've been watching these 3 grow, and each one's strengths are clear now. Chinshu is the strategist, clever, precise, good at reading the whole board. Xiaobai is skilled and sharp, a born marksman. Dashi is honest, obedient, and impossibly strong. Among the 3, Chinshu stands tallest. He laid out his plan. It was solid but still theoretical, a few assumptions that wouldn't survive real combat. I corrected him. then explained my own strategy. All three stared at me in shock. Brother Chun, I've never heard of anything like this. Will it work? Chinshu asked. I smiled. We'll test it in the deep forest tomorrow. Then little Chinny squealed with delight. The tiger cub opened its eyes. Come look, we crowded around. The cub blinked open a pair of amber eyes, looking everywhere, sniffing at each of us, tiny paws kicking the air. Utterly adorable. I held it. Nearly 4 gene already after just 2 weeks, with a frame that promised 300 or 400 gene when grown. When our eyes met, the cub shuddered and pressed its front paws together like a little bow. Smart creature. Already knows who's boss, Dashi laughed, poking its belly. Everyone wanted to hold it, but Qingwan rushed over and snatched it back. Come to mama, little Jeansy. These big men will hurt you. The cub sniffed her, made a happy duck-like squawk, and curled up in her arms, belly up, purring itself to sleep. It had chosen its mother. What about me? I take care of it too. Little Chinny protested, hopping up and down. You can be its big sister, I laughed. Okay. Wait, doesn't that mess up the family order? She said, and everyone burst out laughing. Later, after everyone left, I sat on the Kong with Qingwan while she fed the cub dog milk and mare's milk, burped it, and played with it, giggling softly. Warm, peaceful. You heard everything we said, didn't you? I asked. Her eyes reddened. She nodded. Don't worry. Everything is under control, but there are so many murderous bandits, and only 4 of you. It's too dangerous. We'll have backup from Xiang's stronghold. Bai Yu Xiang is their chief. Then why not let them fight? Why must you 4 lead the attack? Because I need to train soldiers. I need Dashi and the others to become real fighters, fast. She stared at me, startled. Train soldiers? Husband, what exactly are you trying to do? I looked out toward the vast peaks of Taibai Mountain. Something sharp flickered in my eyes. I want to build a future where I never bow to anyone again, where I never read someone else's face, where the world looks up, and I live free at the very top. But isn't that what an emperor does? Qingwan gasped, her clear eyes wide as the moon. She clapped a hand over her mouth the instant the words left it. But the fear in her eyes, that she couldn't hide. So what if I become emperor? I said with a calm smile. Were kings and generals born to it? The dynasty's founders started as a commoner. Qingwan was gasping, staring at the door in panic. When she saw nobody in the dark outside, she exhaled. Husband, say these things only to me. Never to anyone else. It could get us killed. Obviously. I'm not stupid. I stroked the sleeping tiger cub. Wanting something and doing it are different things. For now, we move slowly. Step by step. She watched me for a long time, then said softly, a woman doesn't question her man's path. Whatever you do, I follow. As long as I'm by your side. Life brings joy, death brings no fear. Life brings joy, death brings no fear, I repeated. That's beautifully said. I pinched her soft cheek. The loyal wife indeed. I married you. Living, I'm yours. Dead, still yours. I laughed hard. Then she surprised me. If you truly reach that peak someday, will you care for the refugees? I went quiet. If that day comes, I'll make sure there are no more refugees in this land. Not just peace, a golden age. Our people will walk anywhere in the world with their heads held high. Her eyes blazed. Then I'll follow you through blades and fire without flinching. First fix your archery. Your aim is honestly painful to watch. She buried her face in my chest, pouting. So mean. I'll be meaner tonight. Time for new techniques. With all that deer blood every morning and the wine tonight, my body was overflowing with energy. The next morning, I went to old Zhao the blacksmith's house. I found Zhou Dahai there too, bare-chested, hammering iron alongside Zhao. They were fellow apprentices from the same master. Dahai had been drafted to war, took an arrow through his foot, and came home crippled. He wanted to work with us. Zhao pulled me aside nervously to explain, sweating under my silence. I let him talk, then said simply, I agree. He nearly collapsed with relief. But from now on, I added, you check with me before bringing anyone new. I say yes, you proceed. I say no, you stop. No more acting on your own. Understood. He wiped his forehead. My silence terrified him more than any shouting. I gave Zhou Dahai the same deal. 1 tael of silver monthly. Access to the forging secrets through Zhao. But nothing leaves this circle. Both men swore they'd pay with their lives if the methods leaked. That's a bit much, I said, patting their shoulders. But a man must keep his word. As I walked away, I heard Zhou Dahai murmur, "That young man will be a lord someday. Following him now, that's getting in on the ground floor." Over the next 2 days, we trained, gathered firewood, and refined salt. At one point, a thunderous boom echoed from the deep forest. Then Qinxiu, Dashi, and Xiaobai stumbled back with faces black as coal, but grinning from ear to ear. The experiment had worked. On the fourth day, I led everyone to deliver salt to the county town. I brought Qinxiu, Dashi, Xiaobai, plus Zhao and Zhou Dahai. I rode by Yuxiang's snow lion, a magnificent white stallion that towered half a head above every other horse. The others each rode their own mounts, all weapons hidden in the cart. Zhao drove the double-horse wagon loaded with 400 jin of refined salt and a stack of deer blood wine. I thought it over, but shook my head. In business, I prefer guaranteed payment. I don't know when you'll sell the salt or how much you'll make. I'm a craftsman. I don't need to share your risk. Then what do you want? Lin Linger frowned, clearly annoyed that I was questioning her sincerity. 5 taels of silver per jin of refined salt, paid directly to me as a processing fee. How much you sell it for is your business. If you make a fortune, I don't get extra. If you lose money, don't blame me. She glared at me but agreed. Fine. Your terms. Then give me 1,000 jin of crude salt. In 3 days, I'll deliver 200 jin of refined salt. 5 jin of crude makes 1 jin of refined. Her eyes went wide. The Imperial Court's salt craftsman needed nearly 10 jin of crude to produce 1 jin of refined. My ratio was twice as efficient. 1,000 jin of crude salt cost only 500 copper coins, but the refined salt it produced was worth at least 10 taels per jin on the open market. If this held up long-term, the profits would be staggering. That's roughly the ratio, I confirmed. Take the salt. I'll be waiting in 3 days. She waved her hand. Deal done. The young boss is generous, I said. Then I asked to borrow 50 strings of copper coins for hiring workers and buying firewood. She didn't hesitate. Led me to the counter and ordered her manager, a round-faced man with a thin mustache, to count it out in loose copper. While the man counted, his beady little eyes kept darting around. I said nothing but watched every flicker. When he handed over the money, he casually asked what business I was in and where I'd learned to refine salt. Family trade, I said flatly, swung the money onto my back, and walked out. Before leaving, I leaned close to Lin Linger. Your manager asks too many questions. I wouldn't normally say anything, but it could affect our business. Don't worry about him. He's loyal, she said coolly. But I caught the flash of cold steel deep in her eyes. She already knew. Everything was under her control, which only deepened my puzzle. If she was this sharp, how had bandits managed to kidnap her that night? 3 days, then, I said with a bow. She fixed me with a serious look. Have we truly never met? Or are you hiding something? I don't know what you mean. Then at least tell me your name and where you live. I can't do business with a ghost. We're just passing acquaintances. Get out. She slammed the door in my face. I shrugged and drove my cart away. Up on the 2nd floor, I felt eyes on me. I glanced up at the latticed window. I caught a glimpse of Lin Linger jerking sideways to hide, and heard a solid thud as her forehead smacked the window frame. I smiled to myself and kept driving. Upstairs, she was crouching in pain, rubbing the bump on her head, cursing me. That stubborn ox. That rude farmer. Behind her, a tall woman in a green combat outfit hopped off the embroidered bed, stretching like a cat. It was Bai Yuxiang, though I didn't know she was there at the time. She was wild and beautiful, a short knife at her hip, radiating the energy of a storybook swordswoman. First time I've seen you this crazy over a man, Bai Yuxiang teased. You even went to the countryside looking for him. Is this the one? Bai Yuxiang, Lin Linger stamped her foot. Sure. I'm a wanted bandit chief, remember? Keep your voice down. This is my house. Nobody can hear us. Can never be too careful, Bai Yuxiang sighed. Then got to the real reason for her visit. Business was bad. She'd scared every bandit in 100 li into hiding, and the rich families had all hired guards. Her men were going hungry. Lend me 100 taels. I'll pay you back after the next big score. Never seen a bandit chief as pathetic as you. Here, take it. Lin Linger threw a bag of silver at Bai Yuxiang, though I only learned about this conversation much later. Bai Yuxiang had come begging for 100 taels. Business was bad. She'd scared every bandit in the region into hiding, and the wealthy families had all hired extra guards. Her men were starving. What I also didn't know at the time was the truth about the night I'd rescued Lin Ling. It had all been planned. Bai Yuxiang was supposed to ambush the Black Wind bandits on the road, rescue Linger, and use it as cover to deal with Linger's treacherous second uncle. But I'd stumbled in and ruined everything. Saved the girl, killed the bandits, threw their whole scheme off track. That explained why Ling hadn't seemed truly frightened that night, and why she'd lied to me. She'd been in on it from the start. Now Linger had Bai Yuxiang investigating me, trying to confirm whether I was the one who'd saved her. And she was already planning the next move, using the salt business as bait to lure Black Wind's stronghold into attacking, then having Bai Yuxiang ambush them all at once. These two women were dangerous together. Meanwhile, I drove my cart through town shopping. Since I'd gotten 1,000 jin of crude salt without spending a coin, I used my 30 taels on 1,000 jin of grain, rough rice, and mixed flour, plus 100 jin of vegetables, 100 iron arrowheads, eggs, meat, and 100 jin of animal bones. I spent almost every last copper. On the way home, I sensed someone following me from a distance. I sped up on the main road, blew past the turnoff to Muir village without stopping, rode 20 li further, cut through dense forest on a side trail, and looped back home. Whoever was tailing me, I shook them completely. It was Bai Yuxiang, though I didn't know that then. She sat on her horse at the forest edge, stunned that she'd lost a target as big as a horse and cart. When I finally reached the village, I found a crowd gathered near my deer pen. People were crying. My blood went cold. Qinshu, Xiaobai, and Dashi were lying on the ground, covered in blood. Qingwan and little Qinyi were washing their wounds, sobbing. Xiaobai's mother held her son and wept. Old Zhao clutched Dashi, tears streaming down his weathered face. Su Jiang explained everything. Some thugs from Baisha village had heard about our deer and came snooping. They found my brothers guarding the herd and treating a leopard skin. When they saw the deer, the leopard pelt, and my beautiful wife, greed and lust took over. They tried to steal the deer and the skin, and one of them, their leader, Wu Tian, tried to assault Qingwan. My brothers fought them. Xiaobai took a knife wound to his left arm defending the deer herd. Dashi grabbed the man attacking Qingwan and wrestled him to the ground, holding on even as a dozen men beat him unconscious. Qinshu shielded the leopard skin with his body until they smashed a rock into his skull. Qingwan and Qinyi escaped to call for help, and the thugs fled before the villagers arrived. But they took a young deer and the leopard skin with them. I checked each of my brothers carefully. Xiaobai's cut was to the soft flesh, painful but not serious, no bone damage. Dashi's face was swollen and purple, but his skull was intact. Qinshu had a bleeding head wound from the rock, but the bone underneath seemed fine. They'd all survive. Uncle Su, please take care of them. Have some men help carry my supplies home. I stood up. Everyone who saw my eyes took a step back. The cold in them was inhuman. They'd beaten my brothers, robbed my property, and tried to violate my wife. I pulled a horse from the pen, swung into the saddle, and rode straight toward Baisha village without another word. She didn't take a carriage this time. No servants either. She just walked beside me, those big bright eyes staring at me nonstop. Can I help you with something? I asked, uncomfortable under her gaze. What's your name? She asked. Her instincts were clearly screaming that I was the one who'd saved her. Passing strangers don't share names. She kept following. Where are you going? Passing strangers don't share destinations. Where do you live? Before I could answer, she cut in. Passing strangers don't share addresses. Right? Correct. Is passing strangers all you can say? She snapped. Chance encounters or ships in the night also work, I said, pretending to think it over. Are you playing word games with me? Her cheeks puffed up with fury. Stop following me. I'm not who you're looking for. How do you know I'm looking for someone? A blind man could see it. Just then, I looked up. We'd arrived at a salt shop, Lin Family Salt, on the sign, a big, Lin, banner flying above. I stopped the cart and tied the horse. She paused, curious. What are you doing at a salt shop? Before I could go in, shouting erupted from inside. A heavy-set middle-aged man was being shoved out the door by several young workers. I recognized him instantly. He was the second uncle from last night, the one who'd supposedly led a rescue party for Zhang Yu. So he worked at Lin Family Salt. You ungrateful worms. How dare you treat the old boss like this? He cursed. You're not the boss, Lin Yusin. A worker shouted back. The real boss is Lin Yufeng. The young boss is Lin Linger. You're just a cousin who was put in charge temporarily. You stole nearly 1,000 taels of silver while the boss was away. Our young lady has proof of everything. Be grateful she didn't break your legs. Everything clicked at once. The girl beside me wasn't Zhang Yuer. She was Lin Linger, the young boss of this salt shop. Her father was Lin Yufeng, currently missing. This loudmouth was her crooked uncle, Lin Yusen. She'd come back, uncovered his theft, and thrown him out with ruthless efficiency. So much for honesty, I muttered. Good thing I wore a mask last night. I had to admit, though, her decisiveness impressed me. She'd seized control the moment she returned, exposed her uncle's crimes publicly to claim the moral high ground, and installed her own people. Sharp mind, iron will, decisive action. But something still didn't add up. A girl this calculating. How had bandits managed to capture her? Was it really carelessness? Then Lin Yusen spotted her standing next to me. He erupted, jumping up and down, screaming. Lin Linger, you ungrateful little beast. I risked my life saving you from bandits 2 days ago, and today you throw me out? Your father left me a letter saying if anything happened to him, I run this business. You're just a girl. You'll be married off with a dowry, and that's it. Look, everyone, here's his written will. He waved a letter in the air. A crowd of onlookers gathered. Lin Linger had been about to respond when she noticed me beside her. Her eyes spun with sudden mischief. She grabbed my sleeve and put on a terrified face. My cruel uncle is trying to steal my family's shop. Save me, young sir. I stared at her. How had I suddenly become part of this? I wanted to walk away, but I was about to do major salt business with this girl. If I ruined the relationship now, the deal was dead. I let out a heavy breath and looked at Lin Yusen. Second Master Lin, what exactly does that letter say? Who are you to question me? Get lost, Lin Yusen snarled. He didn't recognize me since I'd been masked the night before. Before he could react, I snatched the letter from his hand and read it quickly. He lunged to grab it back, and I let him. But nobody noticed that I'd already swapped it with a piece of scrap paper from inside my coat. A simple sleight of hand trick. You said the letter proves the shop is yours, I said calmly. But that's not what I read. It absolutely says that. Look, dear brother Yusen, in these troubled times, I travel to Jinzhou and may not return. He held up the paper and started reciting from memory. You're holding it upside down, I pointed out helpfully. The crowd burst out laughing. He flushed red, flipped it over, and tried to keep going. If you want people to believe this letter is real, I cut in, have someone else read it. Otherwise, you're just making things up to steal a young woman's business. Fine. Someone read it, he growled. A couple of scholars wandered over and took the paper. One cleared his throat and read aloud. Old Lee's Clinic, specializing in men's problems, especially impotence. Results guaranteed. The crowd exploded with laughter. Another scholar continued. 30 years of medical practice. Expert in women's irregular monthly cycles. So your father's will is actually a doctor's advertisement for bedroom troubles? Someone howled. Lin Yusen's face turned purple. He glared at me. You switched my letter. Before I could respond, Lin Linger stepped forward, all traces of laughter gone, eyes blazing. Lin Yusen, I trusted you. And while my father was away, you stole nearly 1,000 taels and tried to seize our family business from a defenseless girl. Throw him out. Her workers grabbed clubs and chased him down the street. He ran like a rat. Thank you for helping me again, she said sweetly, looking up at me with those clever eyes. She was more certain than ever that I was her masked rescuer. First time, I said flatly. Second time. First, fine. Please come inside to talk. I followed her in. As we passed the counter, I caught a round-faced manager with tiny eyes staring at me with a strange, calculating look. He quickly dropped his gaze when I looked back. I made a mental note of him. In the back room, Linger thanked me properly. I waved it off. I'm here to talk business. Do you buy refined salt? Refined salt? She looked me up and down with fresh eyes. I handed her a small paper packet, 1 liang of salt I'd brought from home. She tasted a pinch and her eyes went wide. White as frost, fine as sand, no bitterness. This is the kind only court nobles and the wealthiest merchants can get. The supply is tiny and it never reaches common markets. Where did you get this? I made it myself. From crude salt I bought from your shop. Family recipe. She stared at me in disbelief, then took a deep breath and pushed aside everything else. How do you want to do this deal? I buy crude salt from you at cost. I refine it and sell it back to you at 5 taels per gene. She thought for a moment. 5 taels per gene. You'd be leaving money on the table. That surprised me. Here's my counteroffer. Take the crude salt for free. You refine it, I sell it. We split profits 50-50. You'll make more than 5 taels per gene, I guarantee it. You're serious? Absolutely. She nodded firmly. Trust the person or don't. I trust my own judgment. She looked at me with those penetrating eyes. She was almost completely certain now that I was the man who'd saved her that night. The way I spoke, the way I carried myself. That's why she was willing to offer such generous terms with zero upfront cost. But even if I wasn't him, she couldn't lose on this deal. My family, all 13 of them, were killed by bandits, Chung Guang said, head bowed in shame. The local officials took credit for nothing and ignored our suffering. I deserted the army to get revenge. Loyalty and righteousness can't always walk the same road. I understand, I said. He froze. His nose reddened, and he whispered, thank you, Brother Chun. Years of being judged and misunderstood. And finally someone strong enough to matter said they understood. I turned to Lu Handong. Why did you become a bandit? Bandits stole our grain. My whole family starved to death. The boss saved me, so I followed her, simple and honest. Strong men tend to be like that. Bai Yuxiang said everyone in her stronghold had similar stories. Each one had lost someone to bandits. Their only crime was killing too many bandits and robbing too many corrupt rich families. I believed her. Qin Shu came over wiping blood from his hands. The interrogations were done. Lu Haizi and all the bandit leaders had died in the explosion. Only a handful of survivors remained, and none had escaped. We had them expose each other's crimes like you ordered, Qin Shu said, eyes burning with fury. Not one innocent man among them. Unspeakable things, tossing babies on sword tips for fun, cutting hearts from living people to cook and eat. Xiaobai's team finished searching the stronghold. The haul, roughly 10,000 taels of silver, 30,000 gene of grain, 35 horses. Black Wind stronghold had been sitting on a fortune. Then Dashi popped out of a hole in the ground. Brother Chun, there are women down here. Over 80 young women crawled out of a dungeon. The youngest about 14, the oldest maybe 27. Half-dressed or worse. When they saw the carnage around them, they huddled together on the ground, too terrified to make a sound. Dashi told me quietly they'd all been kidnapped after their families were murdered. Some were refugees. There used to be nearly 200. Half had been tortured to death. The Xiang men gripped their weapons, knuckles white. Every one of them was remembering their own painful past. Bai Yuxiang went to the women and spoke softly. They cried out with joy, then collapsed into each other's arms sobbing. She cried with them. Brother Chun, please, let us deal with the remaining prisoners, Chung Guang begged, staring at the surviving bandits with desperate eyes. Fine, I said. But first, I want to see your archery. Chung Guang called out 4 bowmen. Standard military bows, decent, but only 4 archers in the whole outfit. Training real bowmen takes years. Unlike our pulley crossbows where you mainly need to develop aim. One chance. Show me how many you can kill. Dashi, cut them loose. Dashi chopped through the ropes. Run, you rats. Let's see what's faster, your legs or their arrows. 13 bandits scattered screaming toward the gate. I let them get 30 paces out, then called, shoot. Arrows flew. But nerves or poor skill, more missed than hit. By the time the bandits reached the gate, only 7 were down. 6 were still running, already past 50 paces, too far for these bowmen. Useless, Chung Guang cursed, about to chase them down. But I'd already moved. I snatched a bow from one of the archers, grabbed 3 arrows in one hand, knocked them all at once, and fired. Before those arrows even landed, I had 3 more on the string. The bowstring roared again. 6 arrows streaked across the firelit night sky like falling stars. Every arrow hit. 6 shots, 6 kills, bolts punching clean through chests. The last 6 bandits dropped in 2 waves, dead before they touched the ground. 60 paces. 3 stars blazing. Arrow God, Chung Guang was barely breathing. He explained the rankings to the others. 1 arrow at a time is chain shooting. 2 arrows together is sun and moon, elite level. 3 at once is 3 stars blazing, the highest rank any living archer has ever reached. Beyond that is starry sky, which exists only in legends. Nobody in recorded history has done it. And I just fired 2 rounds of 3 at 60 paces. Every man from Xiang's stronghold stood frozen with their mouths open. I could see the thought forming behind their eyes. Give this man unlimited arrows, and he could hold a mountain pass alone. I tossed the bow back to Wei Yu. He caught it and cradled it like a holy relic. Your eyes are slow, your hands unsteady, your arms weak, your aim poor. Keep training, I told the 4 bowmen. From anyone else, they'd have been insulted. From me, they looked like they wanted to beg for more advice. Bai Yuxiang walked over clapping, her eyes locked on me like a hawk watching prey. She leaned on my shoulder and addressed her people. My Qinchin, the arrow god. Convinced? Yes. Yes. Yes, they roared. Before I could pull away, she announced, I'm stepping down. Qinchin is your new chief. Agreed. Every man hit the ground on their knees. We greet Brother Chun, you ungrateful lot. I was just being modest, and you actually dumped me. She pouted. I looked at her. She smiled softly. They're yours now. And so am I. She puckered up and went on tiptoe to kiss me. I stepped aside. She stamped her foot. Enough games. From now on, we're brothers. Get the wine. Someone brought jugs. Everyone got a bowl. Raise your cups, I called out. Spring rain feeds the same roots. I don't ask that we crush everything before us. Only that our iron shoulders carry justice. Drink, and from tonight we share one fate. In life and death. To justice. They drank deep and smashed their bowls on the ground. Cheng Guang drew his knife and slashed his palm. Blood poured down. Break this oath, and let my blood spill within 5 steps. Every man did the same. The deadliest oath among outlaws. I cut my palm too and pressed it against every bloody hand. Brothers in blood from this night forward. Qinxiu, Dashi, and Xiaobai watched all this slack-jawed, then cut their own palms and joined in. I divided the silver. 3,000 taels split among the brothers, the rest saved for the stronghold's future. 3,000 taels, just like that? Bai Yuxiang raised an eyebrow. I want every brother to know. Follow me, and there's wine, meat, money, and a good life waiting. What about me? She asked. I gave you everything. Don't I deserve a good life too? What do you have in mind? Marry me. I'll cook for you. Be your woman. What do you say? She expected me to dodge again. The chase excited her. So I didn't dodge. Perfect, I said calmly. Dark night, no moon, ideal for a wedding. Why wait? I grabbed her waist, threw her over my shoulder, and started walking toward the one undamaged building. Wait, you're serious? She squirmed free, face crimson, genuinely flustered for the first time. Of course, unless you were just pretending. I stepped toward her again, hand outstretched. I'm not ready. When I'm ready, I'll tell you. She turned and ran. The whole crowd burst out laughing. The fearless Bai Yuxiang, finally scared. I watched her flee and smiled. She loved the idea of the dragon but panicked when the real thing appeared. If she wanted to play this game with me, she had a lot to learn. While everyone was laughing at the horse incident, I noticed Joe Sanner slipping away through the trees, hunched over, running for the hills. He knew that if he stayed, I'd come for him. Smart enough to be afraid, at least. Qinxiu spotted him too and started to chase, but I gave him a quiet hand signal to stop. I watched Joe Sanner's path with cold eyes. I'd deal with him later. Su Jiang cursed when he realized Joe Sanner was gone. That rat. Always stealing, always causing trouble. He even tried to break into Widow Wang's house twice. And now this. Where did he go? I'd drown him in a pig cage. Let it go, Uncle Su. He's just a small man. Not worth the anger. I turned to face everyone and clasped my hands together. Today, I want to say thank you to every uncle, auntie, brother, and sister here. I bowed deeply. Qingwan curtsied beside me, eyes red, thanking everyone through her tears. Stop that, Su Jiang laughed. We're one village, one family. You killed the boar, saved lives, brought us work and money. Without you, people would already be starving to death. If anyone should say thanks, it's us. The villagers all spoke up, one after another. They told me not to worry about anything. They said I was the heart of the whole village now, and they'd protect me no matter what. Even if I had killed those men, which officially I hadn't, those thugs deserved it. Qingwan was crying so hard she could barely stand, bowing to everyone over and over. I was genuinely moved. When the people's hearts, and you win everything. Treat them well, and they'll give you their souls. If I ever wanted to build something great, I could never forget this truth. Everyone come to dinner this afternoon, I announced. Meat, wine, and steamed buns. My treat. That's too much, Su Jiang protested. You've all shown me kindness heavier than mountains. A meal is nothing. We'll do this often. Ma Lian leaned over her wall, grinning. Brother Chen, we've got buns and meat right here at my place. Come eat anytime. I'd rather not get beaten to death by your husband, I said, shielding my eyes. Everyone roared with laughter. In hard times like these, a little rough humor was precious. I told Qingwan to prepare the feast, then grabbed my weapons. I'm going hunting. Be back soon. But we already have game at home, Dashi said, confused. Shut up, idiot, Xiaobai hissed at him. I walked down the mountain path like I was heading into the forest to hunt. But once I rounded the bend where no villagers could see me, I cut through the bushes, climbed the ridge, and followed Joe Sanders' trail. Tracking a man like him was child's play. He was an ordinary person who knew nothing about hiding his tracks. He was also half-starved and couldn't have gotten far. I even shot a few birds along the way. Soon I spotted him in a pine grove, slumped against a tree, gasping for breath, fanning himself with his hand. Damn you, Li Chun, he was muttering between breaths. I'll go to Baisha village and tell them you're a killer. The Wu family runs that place. They have connections at the county office. I'll swear you murdered those men. They'll throw you in prison and chop your head off in autumn. From right behind him, I spoke. Joe Sanner, who? He jumped up and spun around. The bowstring sang. The arrow crossed the gap in a heartbeat and buried itself between his eyebrows, the point punching out the back of his skull in a spray of red. He was dead before his eyes finished widening. After dealing with Joe Sanner's body, I wandered the forest a bit longer. Got lucky, found 2 roe deer drinking at a stream. Shot one, and the other ran off. But then the stupid thing actually came back to see what happened to its friend. I had no choice but to take it too. You can't argue with that level of innocent stupidity. I made a rough carrying pole and hauled both deer back, about 130 gene total, plus some big birds I'd shot along the way. When I got home, the whole village was already buzzing. The women had finished their work and were cooking up a storm. Tables were set up inside and outside the yard, over a dozen of them. Kids crowded around little Chinny, gawking at the tiger cub and squealing with excitement. The whole village had gotten used to having a baby tiger around. Lu Jinsue, the village chief's wife, was helping Qingwan organize the cooking, directing the village women like a general commanding troops. Everything ran smooth. Chinchi was doing accounts. Dashi was wrestling with a group of teenage boys on the side. After my training, 2 or 3 of them together couldn't take him down anymore. Xiaobai was tucked in a corner, filing and adjusting crossbow parts as always. The men who weren't cooking were chopping firewood or sitting around chatting. Laughter and chatter filled the whole village. It felt like a real home. Look, Brother Chen's back. 2 roe deer and a bunch of birds. The man never comes home empty-handed. Everyone crowded around, amazed. Dashi puffed out his chest proudly. My brother Chun is the greatest hunter in the world. No, the greatest man in the world, some of the women teased him. Oh yes, the greatest at everything. Especially the kind of fighting you do without clothes on. But Brother Chin doesn't take his clothes off to fight, Dashi said, genuinely confused. Everyone howled with laughter. Xiaobai glared at him from his corner. You idiot, they're not talking about actual fighting. Just go help Brother Chun carry the meat. Dashi ran down the hill to take the load off my shoulders, still scratching his head, not understanding the joke. Qingwan was beaming so hard her cheeks hurt, listening to everyone praise me. Nothing made her happier than hearing good things about her husband. Nearby, I noticed Su Xiu'er glancing at me, then quickly looking away, her bright eyes dimming. She said nothing, just kept working with her head down. Qingwan noticed too. She walked over to Xiu'er and started washing vegetables beside her. After some small talk, she lowered her voice. Xiu'er, do you have anyone you like? What? Why would you ask something like that? Xiu'er's face turned red and she nearly dropped her vegetables. Actually, my husband is a good man. Maybe you should consider him. Are you crazy? What wife offers her own husband to someone else? I'm not joking. I know he cares about you too. It's just that. Qingwan started to explain. But just then, Dashi burst through the gate holding both deer aloft, shouting, Brother Chin says to butcher these and give every family some meat. The yard erupted in cheers, drowning out whatever Qingwan was about to say. Qingwan smiled at the flustered Xiu'er. Think about what I said. I'm serious. She walked off to chop vegetables, leaving Xiu'er standing there with shaking hands. burning cheeks, and a heart pounding so hard she'd forgotten what she was supposed to be doing. "Why did you come to Muir village first?" I asked. Chu Song told me he'd visited our village recently on an inspection tour while I was away. He said the moment he walked in, he felt something different. The whole of Hanbei was drowning in despair. Famine, war, everyone looking half dead. But Muir village was alive. People smiling, working, hopeful, like a sunrise in a graveyard. He'd asked around and gotten one answer for everything. "Li Chun, if you can transform 3 villages like this," he said, "I believe you can settle these refugees too. I know it's a lot to ask, but I think you have the same compassion I do." His eyes were completely sincere. No flattery, real respect. I thought it over, then nodded. "I'll take in the 1,600 refugees outside Pingyang City. That should ease your burden." "Really?" His face lit up like a child's. "Really? I'll write a report recommending you immediately. The county captain position, it's yours." He grabbed my hand, barely containing his excitement. "Being an official doesn't matter to me," I said. "What matters is doing right. Looking up without shame before heaven. Looking down without shame before earth." Then I added, "I have one condition for taking these refugees. Name it. I guarantee nobody will freeze or starve. Everyone will have work and food. But I need the county government to stay out of my way. Let me handle the settlement my own way." "Done." He agreed instantly, then offered 500 jin of grain daily from the county stores. I smiled. "You're quite the accountant." The county used to provide 1,000 jin for refugee relief, but Wu Chuang and the old magistrate had been pocketing most of it. Now Chu Song was trying to save money. "You're capable enough to stretch it," he said sheepishly. "The rest is needed for emergencies and other refugee camps." "Fine. But instead of daily deliveries, just give me 100,000 jin all at once. Consider it a buyout. After that, those refugees are permanently off your books." He hesitated. 100,000 jin was a lot. "You're forgetting. 50,000 can come from Wu Chuang's seized grain. The county only needs to provide the other 50,000. His eyes went wide. "Brilliant. Half the cost, same result. Deal. But you'd better not come back asking for more when you run out. I'll discuss it with my people. If everyone agrees, we sign a red contract." Agreed. Neither of us wasted words. I told him I'd go prepare and send word. The moment I stepped out of the county office, the street exploded. Firecrackers cracked from every direction. Cheering erupted from hundreds of voices. Then I saw them, common people, old and young, crowding the street. Some were on their knees, white-haired elders weeping on the ground. "You killed that monster Wu Chuang and avenged my family. He stole my daughter-in-law, beat my son half to death, then beat her until she died. He saw our shop doing well and sent his thugs to destroy us. Framed my son for theft and threw him in prison. We lost everything getting him out. He was riding drunk through the streets and his horse trampled my grandson. My grandson was 3 years old. The old magistrate let him off with a few taels of silver. The crying was deafening. Story after story of suffering and injustice, pouring out from people who'd been silenced for years. Wu Chuang truly deserved to die," I said, looking up at the sky. I walked through the crowd, lifting the old people to their feet. Then they started pressing gifts into my hands. A basket of steamed buns, half a bolt of homespun cloth, a bowl of eggs saved over weeks. Nothing expensive, everything precious. "No, please, times are hard for everyone. I can't accept," but there were too many hands. People dropped their gifts and ran before I could refuse. The firecrackers kept popping. The thanking didn't stop. For the first time in a long while, in either life, my eyes stung. "This is the people's heart," Chu Song said quietly beside me. "What I see," I said slowly, "is how much these good people have suffered. They should never have had to endure this." He looked at me with surprise, then understanding, then deep respect. "Brother, if you become county captain, you'll be a great official." I let out a long breath and said nothing. But inside, staring up at the gray sky, I thought, being an official? That's not even close to what I'm planning.